Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's Elections Daily live stream of tonight's big primary results in West Virginia and Nebraska. I am here right now with Kraz, Greinetz, and Dylan Brown, and we are, of course, right into it, folks. West Virginia, the key primary race to watch tonight is the key congressional primary between drawn-together incumbents David McKinley and Alex Mooney. We are already starting to get early results there from that race. If we explain it to you here from Decision Desk HQ, we are getting early results from, we have some early results right now across the county, across the district, excuse me. Currently right now with some of the early vote in, it is very close. According to our friend Decision Desk HQ News, David McKinley leads 48-45 right now over Alex Mooney, with early results coming in currently right now. Those results are from Jefferson County, the home county of Congressman Mooney, right there on the Maryland border, as well as we have some results as I go through here, folks. We have some results favoring McKinley here from Harrison County, where he is actually leading in the early vote there by a similar margin to what Mooney is leading in Jefferson. So we see some kind of early interesting results here. As we get into it, though, folks, tonight, I want just to hear the panel's opinion on what you guys kind of think, what you expect to see happen in this first incumbent versus incumbent primary race of the year.
Well, happy to be here. I'm fascinated by this because McKinley is getting hit for his vote on the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the BIF. And he voted with the Biden administration. He voted for it. He's getting hit on that in a Republican primary. The thing is, I think just West Virginia is one of those places that's a little bit unique because you've got a lot of, working class Republicans. This is a very rural working class district where maybe they don't view infrastructure bills with the same kind of, disdain or suspicion as other Republican primary electorates do. On top of that, obviously, West Virginia is a very weird primary electorate because you have a lot of registered Democrats who are now Republicans who aren't voting in the Republican primary, and you have a lot of newly registered Republicans who used to be Democrats coming into the primary. So it's something of a unique circumstance. So I've heard that Mooney has the momentum, but I actually think McKinley has a really strong chance. So I'm interested to see how it pans
out. Dylan, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I basically echo what Kraz says, but I think the Trump endorsement's going to make the difference. He came in strong for Mooney. West Virginia, I believe, was Trump's strongest state. He won that state by the largest margin, unsurprisingly. So I expect his endorsement to carry a lot of weight where it otherwise wouldn't have. But West Virginia is a unique place. Jim Justice switched from Democrat to Republican, but he supported the bipartisan infrastructure bill. I believe he also supported the Build Back Better bill as well. And he supported the stimulus checks, and he's incredibly popular. So is it impossible that McKinley pulls it out? No, I think the attacks against him for voting for the infrastructure bill might have been misplaced, maybe ill-advised, but I do think it's Mooney's race to lose just because of the Trump endorsement.
Yeah, as we get a bit more results right now, Alex Mooney has overtaken David McKinley now, basically switching numbers, 49-45 in favor of Mooney now in terms of percentage, as we start to see a bit more come in here.
Mm-hmm.
This is maybe right now, though, of course, polling showed Mooney with a high lead in recent polling. The last poll showed him up by 15 points over McKinley. Dylan, to go back to your point, obviously, of course, the Trump endorsement played a key here. It was actually a very early endorsement by President Trump. Alex Mooney was actually one of the first endorsements we saw from the former president. Also, very crucially, it was also one of the big endorsements in incumbent versus incumbent scenario for Republicans. So going back to your point, the Trump endorsement in West Virginia playing a big part in a lot of the state's politics recently. How much of that do you think, will play in certain parts of the district? And do you think we could see Mooney break into some old parts of McKinley's district because of that Trump endorsement? And I'll throw that question to Kraz as well once you're done.
I don't really know the specific parts of the district all that well. But I mean, Trump is still broadly popular in the state. So I don't know that he's going to win new converts, but I think he'll run up the margins in the parts of his district. And I think that'll probably be enough.
Kraz, same question to you.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more skeptical of the Trump endorsement power than I think some people are. So I'm not entirely sure, especially when you've got two well-funded incumbents, well-known. McKinley represents most of the district, or like a good chunk of the district. So I'm not entirely sure how much I think the Trump endorsement is going to matter here. I think that, again, the other problem that Mooney has with regards to that endorsement is that a very high percentage of Trump's voters in this district are registered Democrats, and they cannot vote in the primary. So there's a large portion of, dyed-in-the-wool, diehard Trump voters that can't vote for him. They're registered with the wrong party. So, that's got to be a problem for him too. And so, I think that raises the kind of randomness and uncertainty here.
Yeah, you're right that a lot of Trump's voters are Democrats, but more of them are Republicans, just on registration numbers. More of them are Republicans. And I think we got more results.
No, this is the same as the last update I had.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. But obviously, of course, West Virginia is not the only primary we're having tonight. There are some key races in Nebraska, the biggest being the GOP primary in the Nebraska gubernatorial race. Current incumbent governor Pete Ricketts is term limited. That means we are seeing kind of this three-way race right now between James Pillin, Charles Herbster, and Chris Lindstrom. Those are kind of been the three top-tier candidates right now. Pillin has led in recent polling, but Herbster does have the Trump endorsement, as well as there were still some undecideds here. But this kind of goes back to a theory I've had that the Trump endorsement has been weaker in states that have been more typically Republican before the Trump era. Actually, one of the first big occurrences of the Trump endorsement not working out was actually in a gubernatorial primary in Wyoming, actually, in 2018, when current Governor Mark Gordon beat Trump-endorsed candidate Foster Friars in that race there. Gordon is now, of course, the relatively popular governor of Wyoming. That was really kind of the first big loss for the Trump endorsement since he's been in power. But, kind of what do you guys think about, what have you heard about Nebraska? What are you guys thinking there? And how are you guys kind of really looking at that primary race to turn out tonight when all is said and done? We're going to go to Kraz here first.
Yeah, so I don't know a ton about Nebraska. You guys might have to explain this. I know that it's an open seat, but I'm not entirely familiar with the candidates running there. I know Ricketts seems to be fairly popular. I don't know if he's endorsed anyone or anything like that. But I am going to be watching closely the House primaries in Nebraska. So the Fortenberry primary, where he's on the ballot but indicted by the FBI, and then also the Don Bacon primary. And that's a good test of the Trump endorsement power, because Nebraska too is a moderate, arguably even Dem-leaning suburban district. Bacon's been popular, but Trump endorsed his opponent, and that'll be a good test of that. And I think that's actually somewhere where maybe the Trump endorsement carries more weight than you'd expect, because a lot of those voters who really, really like Don Bacon might have left the party or might not be voting in Republican primaries anymore. So it's a little unclear how that's going to turn out, but Dorothy Dillon.
So I believe that Nebraska has open primaries, correct?
That is, I believe so, because of their nonpartisan way they elect their unicameral legislature, the only one in the country.
So that is true, except I will caveat that by saying that even in open primaries, like when people can choose, you still see like voters that are trending away from the party will increasingly not vote in that party's primary, even when they have competitive primaries. So like it keeps them there for a little longer, but they still trend away from voting in the primary.
No, fair enough. I actually expect Don Bacon to not coast, but I expect him to win fairly comfortably. Like you said, this is a moderate suburban district. The suburbs have been running away from Trump. I think, if anything, the Trump endorsement might hurt Don Bacon there. Even if the primary electorate is more Republican than you would expect, I think it still might hurt him. As far as the governor's primary goes, the only thing I know about it is that the Trump endorsed candidate has, 8 sexual misconduct allegations against them, and is still pulling in 24, 25, 26%. And according to the last poll I saw, I think the one you referenced might be newer. He was only 1 or 2 points behind, with a margin of error of like 4 or 5%. So this is the maximum chaos race of the night, like the Ohio Senate race was.
Yeah, so we're moving on here. We've got some more results out of the second district primary here. Alex Mooney, lead kind of shrinks a little bit here. His lead goes down to 46-44 as some results came in from Wood County. Obviously, it does look like we might be shaping up to potentially maybe a closer race tonight than we expected if the trends continue here. But of course, we won't know, of course, until the night goes on. But, we will see kind of where this goes here, continuing on the night here.
Just a correction that the chat is issuing. Bacon's opponent was not endorsed by Trump. He got a shout out at a rally, but Trump said he wasn't formally endorsing. So
the non-endorsement endorsement.
Yeah, my favorite.
There we go.
The best kind of endorsement. So yeah, even without the official endorsement, I don't think Bacon's in any danger.
Right.
Yeah. So obviously, those are the stuff to watch right now in West Virginia, of course. But we're still going on right now in West Virginia, as we see right now. Still early right now. No good way for us to call these results currently as they stand. But really looking at it right here, as you guys look at it, most of the counties that we've seen reported so far are in McKinley's original home county. Are you guys concerned that he's probably just not performing enough right there with the early vote mail-in ballots that he probably needs to get the win here tonight over Alex Mooney?
Yeah, it seems to me that he's not getting the type of margins that Mooney seems to be getting in the districts favorable to him. And if we see what happened in Ohio happen here, the in-person votes are going to be more Trumpy. So they're more likely to favor Mooney. If I were McKinley, I'd want to be leading a little bit right now, or at least tied. I wouldn't want to be 2 points behind, especially with all of the parts that are coming in being from my part of the state.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know McKinley's from, I think, like you guys said, the more western or central part, but, I mean, he's not doing terribly, and I don't really know. I mean, I don't have any indication of how the election day vote's going to break. I mean, I think you could say Mooney, he's Trump endorsed, maybe there's that, but I'm actually not totally sure. Like, Mooney is not, I mean, he's not even from West Virginia. He was head of the Maryland Republican Party for a while, and he kind of carpetbagged over, and like, he's not this kind of like, he got the Trump endorsement, but he's not this kind of like ultra fire breather type, conservative that's going to drive out, or really is. If he didn't get the Trump endorsement, I don't think he would be the guy you would think would be winning the kind of like, quote unquote, really Trumpy working class areas. Like, you would think, oh, Mooney's got to run up the margins in suburban Republican areas. He got to run up the margins in Harper's Ferry and the exurbs of DC and Frederick. So I actually don't know how the election day vote's going to break on this one.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You never totally know, but at the same time, 1 second. Sorry, I had the echo trying to talk to me. So at the same time, you wouldn't have expected J.D. Vance to be the type of candidate that would run up the margins in Trump areas. You would have expected him to perform well in the Matt Dolan type areas, because that just seems to be his type of appeal, at least pre-Trump endorsement. The Trump endorsement really changed the dynamics of that race. Maybe it will here, maybe it won't. But
Yeah, I think though Vance put more effort into crafting an image as like the guy. Like I think that him and Mandel both are really gunning for that kind of like, I'm the Trump guy, like I'm the whatever. And I think
I
that
agree.
yeah, so I don't know, but I mean I guess we'll see. But I'm interested. We haven't gotten results for a while. If we have anything about the Nebraska gubernatorial race. Like I said, I'm not really informed on it. So if you guys know anything about the candidates or how that might break down.
So Todd Pillin, he's a local businessman in Nebraska. He is endorsed by Pete Ricketts as he goes out of the race here. He is the one endorsed by Ricketts. Going into the race, obviously Herbster, as Dylan already mentioned, endorsed by Trump, but also kind of marred with controversy within the last month due to a lot of seemingly credible sexual harassment and assault claims, which, of course, is a massive issue for anyone, especially in a state like Nebraska, where certain suburban areas, highly populous ones, have shown a bit more of a sign to vote against Republicans, as we've seen that across the nation. But really kind of the big thing in this race is really just, I think, who kind of fills in the undecideds again. We'll see if we see a repeat in Ohio. Does Trump-endorsed candidates continue to do much better on election day vote? But really, we do kind of have this big divide where Pete Ricketts is also a very highly popular figure in Nebraska still. Not someone who's really gotten the ire of Trump, of course, at all in his time as governor. So it'd be really kind of fascinating to see whether, kind of that Ricketts versus Trump kind of endorsement race here, who kind of has more power in the state of Nebraska. I think that's what's going to probably end up being more interesting here as we get more and more into the night.
Yeah, I mean, I just have no read on Nebraska. The two polls that we've gotten were Pillin internals, I believe, were internals. I don't know for who. I think for Pillin, but I don't remember. I don't have much of a read on it. I'm expecting chaos. All three in those polls were within 5% of each other. So I don't have a read on where that's going. I do think the fact that Herbster has so many credible allegations against him, and yet through the sheer power of the Trump endorsement alone is still at second, third, or maybe even first place. I think that's a testament to how powerful it still is. But I think the fact that there are 8 allegations, I believe there, I don't remember the exact number. I think it was 8 against him. I think that's going to hurt his possible appeal to anyone outside of those who would be immediately convinced by the Trump endorsement.
Well, I do think Nebraska is unique in that it actually is a very, very suburban state. I think people think of it as a super rural state, but it's not. Like 60% of the population is living in Douglas, Sarpy, and Lincoln counties. So like you got to be running up the score. If you can run up the score with those, solidly but not extremely conservative, middle to upper middle class, Republicans in all those counties, like that's your path to victory. And so I don't know who's going to do that the best. But I don't know if it's Herbster. Maybe. I mean, Vance did okay in those places, but not amazing. So, we'll see.
Yeah, I want to give an update here right now on results through our friends at Decision Desk HQ. David McKinley has retaken the lead over Alex Mooney, 48-43 in this race here, as we have about estimated 10% of the vote in. Again, this is all expected to be early vote currently in this race. Excuse me, but currently right now, David McKinley back up 48-43 over Alex Mooney with about 10% of the vote in, according to Decision Desk HQ.
Yeah. See, that's where I'd want to be before in-person voting comes in if I'm McKinley. That's where I feel comfortable that I can ride out the wave of a more Trumpy in-person vote. But if it narrows down to 45, 43, I wouldn't feel super comfortable if I were McKinley.
Yeah, it is fair to give a slight nod here to that Carol Miller, who has a Trump endorsement and is the current congressman from that southern district, now numbered District 1. She is running with her primary. She has 78% of the vote against a couple of fringe candidates running against her. No surprise there for the incoming congresswoman at all. No, it doesn't look like we're seeing any surprises yet in regards to that race.
I can't hear Carol Miller without thinking of the Ojeda ads. They were okay. Ojeda's a weird guy, but man, those were some fun ads.
I don't think anyone will disagree with you there, Dylan. I don't think anyone will disagree with you there, considering the ads done by Mr. Ojeda. I don't think anyone would deny there, of course. But we are just past 8 o'clock, folks. It is now 8:06 Eastern Time, and it's been 36 minutes since polls closed in the state of West Virginia. That means we are also less than an hour out from polls closing in the state of Nebraska. If you live in the state of Nebraska, you have less than 1 hour to go to your polling stations and go vote. So right now we are officially on the clock for Nebraska. We are in the last hour of polls being opened in the Cornhusker State. But otherwise, we are 35 minutes past poll closings in West Virginia. The big primary still tonight, David McKinley versus Alex Mooney, two incumbent congressmen going off against each other in the new Northern West Virginia District 2. McKinley right now, according to DDHQ, has a small lead of 47 to 43 right now over Alex Mooney, with results still slowly coming in here. So really kind of just looking elsewhere. We still get to have other results yet come in from other counties so far. Obviously, though, some of the big races could come from the Panhandle part of West Virginia, which is the border, which is where Mooney is from, and part of the part that borders closer to Virginia and Maryland. We expect this to be the part where Mooney is probably the strongest in the district. This is his home base. This is where he's done the most well in all of his runs. But one that looks at the future here a little bit, Mooney has been rumored to be a candidate for that key 2024 Senate race against Joe Manchin. Obviously, that could be potentially a much different race. There are going to be a lot of potential suitors for that race. But if Mooney wins this race tonight with that Trump endorsement, do you see him as a potential favorite for the nod in 2024 when he's likely to run against current Democratic Senator Joe Manchin?
Favorite? I don't think a favorite. I think he'd face similar allegations to Dr. Oz right now. I think he'd face some carpetbagging allegations. I think the strongest candidate against Manchin would probably be Jim Justice, who I mentioned earlier. He would have some measure of credibility with Democrats because he was a Democrat. He'd probably get Trump just because he switched to endorse Trump. So I think if you're looking at the Republican Senate field, I think you're looking at Jim Justice.
Yeah, I think you got to look at Justice if he wants it. I know he is a little bit older. I think forget how old he is now. He's going to be 73 by the time the 2024 Senate race comes around. So he wants it, but I also think
I raise you Peter Welch.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. But look. So he might want it. I think there's that aspect. I think the other aspect is that apparently I think Evan Jenkins is going to want another shot at this. I think he thinks he would have beaten Manchin in 2018. It's not the craziest hypothesis in the world. He barely lost that primary to Morsi. He was shut out of it basically by Don Blankenship, who was not a serious candidate really in any sense. So I think Jenkins is going to want another shot. Mooney's going to want a shot. I don't think Miller would take a shot, but you only have 2 congressmen, right? And so if you think about it that way,
Yeah, I think Mooney probably would go for it, but I think it's Justice's primary if he wants it. I would love to see Don Blankenship run again just for the entertainment value. He has no hope of winning, but he'd make some amusing ads. Joe, you're muted.
This is what I get. I try and eat a little bit. I'm still not used to this yet. I'm sorry, folks, but that's certainly going to shape up to be one of the marquee races in 2024 on the Senate side. Of course, is going to be that kind of game right there. It'll be very fascinating to see really kind of what goes down in that primary, though, for sure, and see if there are any key differences from 2018 when that primary got very, very messy, or if we see someone who may get a Trump endorsement or someone who is a current governor clear the field. Of course, it'll be very interesting to see kind of what goes down there. In terms of West Virginia in 2024, currently, right now, with about estimated 14% of votes in from DDHQ, David McKinley continues to have around about 2.7% lead right now. A 3.2% lead right now over Alex Mooney, 46.6 to 43.3 over Alex Mooney right now, with about 14% of the estimated vote in, according to DDHQ. Again, a lot of it coming from McKinley's old home base was expected. Most of this district is still McKinley's old base. Even if the election day vote does come in, do you think that the fact that a lot of this district still is from McKinley's home base, a majority is it from McKinley's home old district? Do you guys think that might have him end up closer in the results than what we maybe previously expected going into the night?
Yes, I do think he'll be closer. But I believe some of these votes are election day votes already coming in.
We might have some election day votes from Wood County, I believe.
Well,
59% in. I would guess some of those are election day votes.
And McKinley's margin is tightening, slowly, but it's tightening. So I would guess that, yeah, he'll be close, but I still don't think he's favored.
Yeah, I don't know how to read these. I mean, McKinley's doing pretty well in the areas that are his kind of home base. I do think, Mooney's going to run up the score in those heavily populated counties near the Maryland border. But that being said, though, there are lots of not tiny counties up in the Panhandle, in northern West Virginia that are probably going to be straight up McKinley because they're really far away from where Mooney represents. Mm-hmm. They're really far away from his home base. So, I tend to think that he'll run up the score there. So I don't know. We're gonna have to see more counties to get a sense.
Yeah, so we did get an update. We are now about 15% in, according to Decision Desk HQ. McKinley.
Big drop. We got big drop. Big drop.
Big drop from who knows where.
I didn't get a big drop yet.
Kraz, if you could search that for me. But now we are estimating about 30% of votes in right now.
There it is.
Currently, right now, McKinley keeping that tight advantage right now with about 30% of the vote in. He leads 45.6 to 44.3 over Alex Mooney. That is a difference of about 215 votes right now between the two, with about 30% of the results in right now. We are looking for where that big drop came from county-wise. It just basically bumped up both candidates' totals here, as it looks like some election day vote from Jefferson came in, but we did see looks like a full drop from Lewis County. If I can find it here, I'm using the New York Times because they give us county names. It's part of that Central Virginia area, but right now that is actually a big drop there for David McKinley. It looks like, according to Decision Desk, he does end up winning Lewis County 46 to 43 right now. And we have more in. We have more in. Decision Desk is reporting 43% of results in right now. David McKinley leads 46.7% to Alexander Mooney's 42.8% right now. Again, another big drop just came out of absolutely nowhere. For West Virginia. It looks like we might be starting to see some counties reporting not only early vote, but it looks like also potentially election day vote at the same time here as we get into it. And it looks like it came from Hampshire County, another one of those counties in that eastern or central part of the district here. It ended 49. Oh, actually, no. This is very interesting, folks. Hampshire County is from the eastern part of this district here. It is right by those three panhandle counties close to Virginia, on the Virginia border. According to DDHQ in Hampshire County, David McKinley wins Hampshire 49-39 over Alex Mooney. That is a big result, folks. That is a big result.
That's big for McKinley because that's near his home base. It also, according to Decision Desk, cast 7,100 votes, which is a big chunk of change. Mooney only gets 39%, and McKinley gets 800 votes. That's big.
And they also put all of the votes in. That's the entire district.
Well, we've started to see that now. We saw that from Lewis as well. We saw that from Lewis County as well, where they also dropped all of their ballots. It looks like we might be getting some of that tonight, folks. So that's something to look out for. It looks like we might be seeing some counties here deciding to produce in terms of their votes. It looks like we might be seeing drops like we've seen in the past, where we see counties just drop all of their votes at once. We haven't seen this in a while because of the change in voting and because of COVID. We haven't seen that, but we're seeing a bit of a return tonight from West Virginia. It looks like Lewis and Hampshire counties both dropping results at the same time. That gives a big margin here to David McKinley, especially out of Hampshire County, which is in that eastern part. Okay, very interesting. It looks like Lewis just unreleased their votes.
Yeah, I feel like those entire county results might be errors.
Be very disappointing if they were. Be very sad.
Because those are big drops immediately.
I wouldn't be so. I actually don't know if the whole county results are errors. Usually, when they're errors,
they usually have some weird results for candidates.
Yeah, they usually have really weird results, and then also, I mean, rural counties are usually more able to do the whole drop everything at once type thing.
I've just never seen this before.
Well, so DDHQ has not retracted the Hampshire results yet. So as far as we can tell, they still appear to be valid. And it's not I will say, I think Hampshire is one of those really, really old school GOP counties. So it's not, I don't think it'd be a wild result here.
No, I've just never seen an entire county drop at once. That's unusual from what I've seen.
Well, I'm also looking at New York Times here, and it doesn't look like they've put in the results for Hampshire or Lewis yet. They haven't put either of those results in here yet. But we still see the Hampshire results currently up right now for McKinley. As we kind of get more in here now, let me check here again on Hampshire. Are those results still in? Yes, they are. Those results are still in, but right now, without the Lewis results, McKinley leads 45.4 to 44% on the nose, basically here, about 32% of the vote estimated in right now. So that is a interesting number here right now, though, as we continue to go on here. So I guess after some excitement there, we're starting to if those Hampshire results are accurate, though, does that so shines that McKinley again is probably performing better than maybe what was expected of him going into the night?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I will note also we did get some results from Jefferson County.
Yeah, big drop from Jefferson.
Mooney does better on election day, but it's at 80% reporting, and his margin, I mean, he's still only netting 1,100 votes, and that's probably going to be one of his best.
It looks like McKinley or Mooney has taken the lead on New York Times.
That's because they don't have
from the Jefferson results. Yeah, from the Jefferson results, because Jefferson dropped a bunch of. I actually don't know if it's reflected in their vote count in Jefferson, but on Decision Desk, it is reflected in the vote count in Jefferson. They have Mooney now with 1,500 or almost 1,600 votes in Jefferson County.
So, yeah, but maybe potentially we could be in for maybe a longer night in this regards here. Here, but interestingly enough, here we are still waiting for results here across the board. We're still waiting on some results here across the counties here as we're waiting for election day slowly but surely come in. But as it looks like counties from Webb comes in, it's basically a tie right now between McKinley and Mooney as we watch these guys play in right here. We are still waiting for some key counties to drop in potentially here. We have heard that Dave Wasserman has made a call. We do not go off of Dave Wasserman here. We only go off of Decision Desk HQ and their results. And there has been no call, of course, yet from Decision Desk HQ. They still consider it too early to call.
Sorry, just wanted to say not a big drop, but the percentage reporting on Decision Desk has gone down to 33%.
Yes, that's still in regards with the Hampshire results in.
No, I mean it's gone down. It was 43% statewide.
That was after the Lewis.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The Lewis was received here.
Sorry, this is very confusing.
I understand. No, it's totally okay, my friend. It is no problem at all. Should want to mention right now that Decision Desk now has Alex Mooney taking the lead with an estimated 34% of the votes in right now. Alex Mooney has taken the lead over McKinley, but it is only by about half percentage point. So we haven't seen necessarily that big drop yet that we're waiting to see here. Hampshire has not shown up yet on other sites, but according to DDHQ, Hampshire County with a key drop here potentially from McKinley. If that is an accurate result, DDHQ has continued to keep those results up right now. So we have about 34% in according to DDHQ. We are still waiting on some key other areas in here. We are considering it here still too early to call at Elections Daily. We consider the race too early to call between David McKinley and Alex Mooney in the race for Congress in that GOP primary in the 2nd district. We're still waiting for some other counties to come in here. Have a weird result from Barber that I guess this might actually be an error if you guys look at it here. Is all 41 votes apparently went to Mike Seckman, who is a no-name candidate. That feels like one of those earliers that we've talked, or true errors that we've talked about, where a county posts, test results and, all the numbers go to one candidate or they're all split up evenly between all the candidates. We saw that in a couple of counties, some rural counties in Ohio last week that made some interesting decisions there.
What are you talking about? Ron Hood won that primary.
Maybe Seckman's hiring McCrae Dowds out of North Carolina 9. I mean, who knows? Maybe he's committing mail ballot fraud.
Maybe.
No. I mean, I think maybe some people, some unnamed individuals are looking at a different set of results than we are, or they have more complex models in terms of how this is going to shake out. And, Mooney is up now on Decision Desk. A few more votes came in. He's up about a point. I can't see where they came in from, if they're election day or mail. But, I mean, New York Times has, them neck and neck. They have Mooney taking the lead now with a big drop from Grant County, which is a really ancestrally Republican county in Mooney's district, but they dropped almost all of their results. They have 87% reporting. And so, it's kind of, and McKinley's doing well in his district. So, I don't know. I don't see where this is headed.
Yeah, there still definitely does seem to be, regardless here, still, again, like we said, still we are considering it too early to call right now. In that key West Virginia 2nd GOP primary. We are still considering it too early to call in the race between Alex Mooney and David McKinley. We are still considering it too early to call as we go in here right now. And if we really here continue to look right now, we do see Mooney starting to grow out a lead right now, but yet we, again, still consider it too early to call as the night goes on here. But we are starting to see more election day vote come in. We are seeing some, maybe not. We are still continuing to see potentially. We are starting to see some election day vote come in that is favorable to Alex Mooney. Potentially, it looks like he might overtake McKinley in Taylor County, where McKinley led with the early absentee vote there. But it looks like right now we are going to see Mooney overtake him in that district. That's one of those border districts there along that central, kind of close to eastern district there. That's closer to Mooney's district. But still right now, according to DDHQ, still a very tight race. Mooney leads by barely a point with an estimated 37% of results right in. And that is, again, a big difference compared to other sites right now. According to DDHQ, the Hampshire results show a victory for David McKinley. That would be different than I think what other areas will consider right now when you look at some parts of this field. But it does kind of look like right now that if that holds on, and if we do see a drop for Hampshire County that matches those results, that will change things a little bit, certainly if that continues to be accurate. We have dropped, Decision Desk again drops a huge total of votes here. If you guys look at it, we're back up to now 44% reporting according to DDHQ. Again, if you look at it right now, Alex Mooney keeps about his lead is down to about 0.6 percentage points. He leads 45.3 to 44.6.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. No, that is David McKinley in the lead. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That is David McKinley in the lead, 45.3 to 44.6 right now. Again, we are still considering this race too close to call. We do not consider this to be a done deal by any sort of circumstances yet. Regardless of what other outlets are reporting, we do not consider this race to be called yet, or to have an ability to be called yet. It looks like, according to DDHQ, at least it looks like that Wood County is almost all done here. As we look at some of the results that come in here, looks like Wood County is almost all done. We have what are you looking at, Dylan? That was a big O.
The results just went back down on.
Oh my goodness!
Decision Desk. It went. They lost a ton of votes.
Hampshire has been uncalled. It looks like we have errors in both Hampshire and Lewis County. These results now more closely match results that we're seeing on the New York Times website.
Okay, that makes more sense. It was weird that New York Times was updating the results and just not including Hampshire. That was strange.
It was indeed strange.
Well, without Hampshire, which wasn't, supposedly an 800 vote boon for McKinley, I just don't think he's doing well enough in his part of the district. I mean, when you look at, Mooney's running up the score in Jefferson for sure, and that's a lot of votes. But he's running up the score in pretty much that entire eastern half of the district. And then McKinley is doing well, but not well enough, right? He's getting, if you look at Mongolia County, I can't say that. Whatever, wherever West Virginia University is, you have, McKinley's leading by like 5 points, and that's probably just not enough, right? That's a vote-rich area that's in his district and is, more moderate. Might go for him, and he's only leading by 5. I just don't think he's running up the score enough.
No, without Hampshire, I don't see it. By the way, thank you, West Virginia. I'm already confused, and you're throwing 2 fraudulent results at me. Thanks, West Virginia.
Yeah, certainly. We apologize for the confusion there, folks. We apologize for that, of course, as the night goes on.
I think it just adds to the charm of a live stream. It does,
doesn't it? It does a little bit. But according to DDHQ, they currently have this at a 46.7 to 43.7 lead right now for Alexander Mooney, with about 35% of the results in right now. Mooney currently up by about 3 percentage points right now. That adds up to about 600 total votes, according to DDHQ. Mooney leading right now. 46.7 to 43.7. Again, Decision Desk HQ and Elections Daily still consider this race too early to call. It is too early and too close to call right now in this West Virginia second primary. Still too early and too close to call right now in the second district. With that as well, we have hit the 8:30 mark. That means we are 30 minutes away from poll closures in Nebraska. Polls close at 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. Central, which is the Nebraska time zone in the state there. Of course, we are watching a key Republican primary in that race, in the race for governor, between three candidates as they all look to replace Pete Ricketts, who is term limited as governor right now. But right now, we are officially 30 minutes from polls closing in Cornhusker State in Nebraska. We are currently really true. We are not that much far off here, but I do have now an update again in the second district. According to DDHQ, with about 37% of results in, Alex Mooney has expanded his lead to 48% to 43% right now. Over David McKinley, it is now a 5-point lead for Mooney as the night continues to go on right here. But now we are starting to see signs now, folks, of Mooney potentially starting to pull away here as we see more of this Eastern and East Central, I guess you can say, vote come in here. It's continuing to be significantly more favorable here to Mooney, but still across his district, though. Be very interesting to see here as this kind of continues to go in right now, where we're really looking for the vote to be at as we grow into these results here. Just again, it looks like we are starting to see the east-west divide, with Mooney just doing better in his eastern counties than McKinley's western counties in this district. It looks like, but right now, of course, no call, but it does look like right now we are heading to potentially a Alex Mooney win here. We are trending in that direction, but again, this race is not close enough to call yet with results according to DDHQ results right now. Of course, right now we have Alex Mooney up 48 to 43 right now over David McKinley. A big reason, of course, as was mentioned earlier, for the result against McKinley was his vote on the infrastructure bill. We saw other Republicans who are trying to get punished for that. It may work for some of them. Already had Trump challenged because they voted to impeach the former president when the time came to it. But right now, of course, looking at this race, it does look like potentially a closer result than what was expected. But still, right now, it looks like a result could be coming in right now for David McKinley. For Alexander Mooney. It continues to look like we are seeing, as the election day vote continues to come in here, looks like we are seeing a trend towards Alexander Mooney in this race. So again, I just want to continue to hear thoughts from the panel here of Kraz and Dylan, kind of continuing what you guys think here. What momentum does this bring for Mooney in the future potentially? And again, what does it say for the strength of endorsement going into the night for Donald Trump as he looks to continue to increase his record in key primary seasons? We, of course, are not counting races where he endorses congressmen who are unopposed and incumbents in primaries. He's done that many times before. He's done some in Pennsylvania today. But as we continue to look at it here, though, what are you guys kind of thinking about right now in terms of, kind of what this does for Mooney in terms of momentum, if he does in the end pull it out, like it seems like he is trending to here with the results?
It gives him momentum if you want to go for the Senate seat. I think something he'd want to do. I'm still not entirely sure how strong he'd be. He's got to contend potentially Jenkins, potentially Justice, potentially Carol Miller. But that being said, strong result for him tonight. He is, though, a serial underperformer in the general elections, but he's not going to lose this year, obviously. I think he has momentum going forward. I don't know, maybe he make a run for governor if he doesn't want to be a senator or something like that. He's youngish, so he can wait it out too. He can be a representative for as long as he wants and then wait it out. So we'll see.
We do also have another drop.
Yeah. We have our now reporting. Decision Makers are now reporting with about 48% of the vote, 47% of the votes estimated in right now. We have a lead of 49 to 41 right now for Alexander Mooney. His lead is about 2,000 votes right now over David McKinley. Again, we're just seeing more and more counties start to report their election day vote. Berkeley County, again, one of those panhandle counties, closer to Maryland and Virginia, are coming in very, very strongly for Alex Mooney. That is truly his home base, those three counties out there. Some big results, it looks like, coming in right there for Mooney in some of those key counties out there. Again, we still consider this too close to call, but we are saying that it is trending towards a Mooney victory right now in West Virginia's second district GOP primary between the two incumbents. This was kind of still the expected, as I said, the expected race going into tonight. This was definitely the expected race, the expected result. This is, again, a win for polling. In terms of GOP primaries, we haven't seen too many errors yet in that regard. But there has been some talks of, could regional voting hurt polling in Pennsylvania? Pennsylvania's primary is coming up in a week, and the rise of Kathy Barnett has thrown the Senate race into absolute chaos, as a recent Fox News poll shows two recent a local Fox News poll and a nationwide Fox News poll shows Dr. Oz, David McCormick, and Kathy Barnett all within striking distance of each other and within the margin of error of those polls. Of course, the key question is, we've seen this. We've mentioned it many times before on this channel, and we'll mention it again. Pennsylvania, due to having the county locations of the candidates on the ballot, has had a history of strong geographic voting. Both of these Fox News polls still showed a high number of undecided voters in those polls in the double digits. The one Fox News poll still showed 26% of voters undecided. That was from the local Fox News branch poll. Of course, the key question is, if regionalism does take effect, if it's not showing right now, of course, David McCormick technically has the western side of the state all to himself, as both Oz and Barnett will be listed as Montgomery County residents on the eastern part of the district. McCormick will be listed on Allegheny County on the western side of the district. As we continue to wait for results come in here in West Virginia and in 23 minutes, Nebraska, I do want to hear from you guys thoughts about, could regional voting really become a key deciding factor in Pennsylvania's in the Republican primary for Senate in Pennsylvania if polling continues to show the race as close as it is going into Election Day? I'm going to throw it to Kraz here first.
Yeah, I think so. I think that McCormick can't get like 5% in Philadelphia and Montgomery and Chester and all those places, right? But he's going to get huge margins out of Western Pennsylvania if he's at all competitive and the geography patterns hold. So if he's getting those huge margins in Western Pennsylvania, he just needs to stay competitive in Eastern Pennsylvania and hope that Barnett and Oz really do fight it out. And then he can score a win. I think the swing areas are going to be important for him. How does he do in the Lehigh Valley? How does he do in Reading, in Scranton, and some of the more populated areas, Central Pennsylvania? I think he'll do pretty well. But, Oz does have the Trump endorsement, so maybe some late breakers go for him. It's not clear to me, but I think McCormick is underrated at this point.
So I generally agree that McCormick is underrated. Regional voting is obviously going to be a factor, but I don't think it's going to be as big a factor. We saw in Ohio that undecideds broke pretty heavily for J.D. Vance. I don't expect that to happen 1-to-1 here. I don't take the 26%. I don't think 18, 19, or 20% of those would go to Oz, but I do think the regional voting will give McCormick a solid percentage, but I think the Trump endorsement would also give Oz a solid percentage of those undecideds. I'm not as sold on Barnett Mentum as everyone else. Club for Growth just put in a bunch of money for them, and they seem to have a poor track record lately. And as
they just have a poor track record in general, in my opinion. I've never really liked most of the candidates personally that Club for Growth has endorsed. So
I haven't liked any of the candidates Club for Growth.
Well, that's to be expected with you. I'm a Republican. I have differing opinions on that.
I know.
So I think also, I mean, the geography is just such a big factor in these Pennsylvania races. It's really hard to quantify. Like, I just think that, if McCormick can just stay competitive in Eastern Pennsylvania and not get 5% in all those places, right? Because that's what happened to Dolan, right? Dolan was really competitive and did well around Cuyahoga, where he's from, in that Ohio race, but he's got trounced everywhere else, right? Like, he got, in Eastern Ohio, he's getting 10% of the vote. He's behind Mike Gibbons, right? Toby's, was like, nah, you're not going to win that way. But I think that if, McCormick can stay, in this, 3-4-way race, if he can stay 15-20% in these counties and just run up the score in Western Pennsylvania, I mean, that could get him to 25%. That could be a win. So, I just think he has a good shot as long as he stays.
Yeah. And certainly I think it's sure to be said, again, we don't see regional voting like this in really any other state in the nation. Pennsylvania's regional voting patterns and primaries has, again, really kind of just been a Pennsylvania thing. We really haven't seen it it continue to translate into the modern era like we've seen it in Pennsylvania. Even again, I mentioned it again, 2018, Lou Barletta, Trump endorsement. He was by far the party favored candidate against Bob Casey in that race, but he still only gained about 62% of the vote because a state rep from the Western Pennsylvania area ran and gained about 38% of the vote there. Paul Mango, who did lose a primary to Scott Wagner, but still Mango outperformed his polling numbers by about 12 percentage points in the final results because, again, undecideds from Western Pennsylvania broke for him. 2020 on the Democratic side, you're looking at the auditor's primary. That was the key competitive primary for Democrats statewide that year. Nina Ahmad, who was not the favorite candidate of a lot of people in the party, won that race because she just did unquestionably stronger in the southeastern part of the state, Philadelphia, Chester, Berks, Delaware, Montgomery. She just did a lot better there and ran up the score there to beat Michael Lamb, who was kind of the more establishment favored candidate, who was the auditor of Allegheny County from the western part of the state. Even in the modern era post-Trump, where we've seen many things change, Pennsylvania's regional voting has not changed. And I've always said if there was a high number of undecideds going into the night in either race, that could be the key. That could be a key deciding factor. And again, in every recent poll that we've gotten, we've seen 15% plus of undecided voters still for the Senate primary. If that holds, geographic voting could be what comes down to this race here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, geographic voting is going to be a massive factor. But I think the two massive factors for undecideds is going to be geographic voting and the Trump endorsement. I just don't see Barnett.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a call to announce. With now 54% of the vote in, Decision Desk HQ can now project the race in West Virginia's 2nd Congressional District GOP primary for incumbent Alex Mooney. Mooney, with the Trump endorsement, will take this race according to DHQ. He is currently leading by about 10 percentage points as the night continues to go on here, but it is an unsurprising victory here in the end. Mooney continuously led in polling by strong amounts coming into the night. He was leading by double digits. He's leading by double digits now. Most of the majority of the counties without reporting results are from McKinley's base territory, but the numbers there just are not going to be good enough for him to take this result. Alexander Mooney knocks off David McKinley, who becomes the first incumbent to lose a primary this year. Alex Mooney will keep his job as congressman, and he will become almost certainly the congressman for West Virginia's 2nd congressional district come November. So results from the panel here, obviously in the end, not a shocking conclusion tonight. A big result there in the end for Alex Mooney. As we started to see this pattern in the early parts of the night, a massive run-up of the votes there for him in the eastern part of the district, especially in those more populous eastern panhandle districts. That's what's really in part giving him the margin right now that he needs. So we're going to throw to Dylan here first here, kind of just your overall reaction to the final results of the night here, and kind of just, your first thoughts.
I'm not surprised. Betting against the Trump endorsement in a Republican primary seems to be a risky game. Trump doesn't lose on his endorsements very often in congressional races, and Mooney, while not especially strong, didn't have the weaknesses that McKinley had to Republican base voters. I believe he was one of the people to certify the January 6th election, which probably shouldn't be a weakness, but it is to some primary voters. So I'm not surprised.
Kraz, go ahead, because I know you've got to head out here soon.
Yeah, quickly, I got to head out. But not super surprising. McKinley was backed by Manchin. He voted for Biff. Maybe not as big of a weakness in this district as some other ones, but again, I think he just, you got Mooney. I actually think one thing that might be interesting going forward is because Trump has polarized election day versus mail-in voting so much, and because Republicans are much more likely to vote on election day now, does that raise the value of his endorsement again? Because it means all those late-breaking voters, right, are now disproportionately conservative Republicans. They're going to pay attention to his endorsement and look up who has the endorsement. So I actually think maybe that's a factor there, but either way, not super surprised. Wish you guys good luck, and hope to see you soon.
All right, so we should be having our editor-in-chief and good friend, of course, Eric Cunningham, should be jumping on here around 9 o'clock, we hope, but for right now, as we kind of go into this a little bit period of dead time here with the McKinley results closed here, and Alex Mooney, the congressman, and with about still 13 minutes to go until poll closings in West Virginia, we are going to allow everyone to take, with an hour in now, we're going to let everyone take a 5-minute break here. Just to, catch up, go get a drink of water. I'm going to go refill my cup here. Go get a drink of water, take a break here. We're going to be back in 5 minutes to kind of get our opinions here on the results, as well as get preparing here as we get ready for the results here. As Eric, I'm sure before you hear it, we're about to take a 5-minute break here to let people pause in here before we get in on the night. We're going to take a 5-minute break to get ready before the Nebraska results. So starting now, 5-minute break. We'll see you guys in 5 minutes at 8:52. All right, folks, it is 8:52, and we now, of course, welcome in our editor-in-chief, Eric Cunningham, as he is now joining us for the stream tonight, as we are now less than 10 minutes out from polls closing in Nebraska, as we wait for tonight's key Republican primary expected between Jim Pillin, the endorsed candidate of outgoing GOP governor Pete Ricketts, Charles Herbster, another businessman who is the Trump-endorsed candidate in this race, who is a big-time Republican donor, and a surprisingly third strong candidate in current state senator from Omaha. I should just say state representative, really just a state legislature, Brett Lindstrom from Omaha, as he is part of Nebraska's weird unicameral legislature. But of course, Eric, welcome on tonight. Of course, before we really trying to get in here talking about Nebraska, Eric, I know you've been watching tonight before you were able to come on tonight with West Virginia. Want to hear your reaction to tonight's results. Alex Mooney, as is called officially by DDHQ, to beat David McKinley in the race to be basically the next congressman from the new Virginia 2nd Congressional District.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly an interesting result. I want to see the final results as they come in, but I'm not shocked by this poll. It's shown a clear momentum swing towards Mooney in the final weeks. McKinley had went in too hard on his bipartisan credentials. Obviously, West Virginia has a lot more Republicans than it used to have. I think it may even have a plurality of Republicans at this point. It's either that or Kentucky. I can't remember which of the two.
Kentucky.
But it's got a lot of Republican voters now. And, bringing in Joe Manchin, it's not a good idea, I don't think, in your Republican primary to attack a Republican rival. That seems like a bit of a problem. The BIF vote, obviously, I think is one of the big things here, but I don't think it's the biggest factor. Obviously, voting for half of Joe Biden's domestic agenda, that's basically what BIF is. You had the original Build Back Better, which was basically most of what was in BIF, and then the actual Build Back Better Act that came later. Voting for what amounts to maybe half of that at most is a tough pill to sell to voters, even if it contains a lot of infrastructure stuff they may like. And then finally, Mooney's just more conservative. He's more in line with Trump and his positions. And West Virginia is a very, very Trumpy state. It's a state that had been Republican, the presidential level for a while, but he didn't really solidify as Republican from top to bottom until the Trump years. You mentioned you went from having a Democratic governor to having, a Republican governor, to having Republican supermajorities in the legislature, to only having Joe Manchin left, in part because of a blue wave and a really, really bad Republican candidate who had a lot of unique vulnerabilities. So, overall, obviously, West Virginia would have preferred not to lose a district, but given the way it was drawn, the way things came out, I'm not surprised. I don't know if it signals a long-term shift in terms of what West Virginia voters are looking for from their elected officials, whether they want, more focus on traditional conservative issues on economics, or whether they just really wanted to go with a Trump-endorsed candidate. Either way, Mooney's going to be in Congress for the next 2 years, and David McKinley is not. And that's a pretty big sea shift in terms of what you expect from traditional West Virginia Republicans, more along the lines of him, Shelley Moore Capito, more moderate bipartisan figures. They're able to work across the line. It's kind of the end of that old guard.
Yeah, certainly a shift. It should be said, of course, that Mooney is not necessarily a super right-wing figure. It should be said here. He's not, massively right-wing in that regard. He's certainly conservative. And I think, as Eric said, probably more conservative than McKinley is, especially on certain economic issues. But also, he certainly isn't the most conservative member of Congress. Sure. I don't believe he's part of the Freedom Caucus. I'm not sure about that, but I don't believe he's part of the Freedom Caucus.
But he's certainly much more in line with the Trumpy voters. David McKinley voted for the January 6th Commission. That's really hard to defend in a Republican primary at this point. So you let the commission about the idea behind it. A lot of Republican voters have issues with Democrats running it, have issues with who's on the commission. Benny Thompson, who voted to overturn the 2004 election. And then Liz Cheney, the really strong disdain for Liz Cheney. It was just it's
Mooney is in the Freedom Caucus, by the way.
Yeah,
he is in the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mooney's just much more in line with what I think West Virginia voters are expecting at this point from their politicians, which would lead me to wonder. I don't think Shelley Moore Capito is at any risk of a primary challenge, but I would wonder if she starts to shift a little bit to the right, in the near future. Given this this result, we expect probably the result to grow.
It should be said, pointing to Moore Capito. She was recently reelected in 2020.
Yep.
She would have to face reelection for another 4 years, and there's a lot of rumors that she could retire in favor of her, I believe, nephew or Grant. I forget who, but Riley Moore is a related family member to Shelley Moore Capito, and he's the current treasurer in West Virginia. There's a lot of rumors that Moore Capito could step back and potentially support her family member and her younger family member and current treasurer of West Virginia, in that race to potentially replace her in 2026. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah. And one more thing about Capito.
It's Moore Capito. More Capito.
Yeah. One more thing that's one thing that is interesting about Moore Capito though that I would point out is that she's actually kind of in line with another Republican in a state that started becoming more and more Republican, which is Texas. You had Kay Bailey Hutchinson, both of them fairly moderate on specific issues, specifically abortion. Moore Capito has been in a weird position with this lately, where she started her career as pro-choice. Since then, she has been really iffy on abortion. She's voted for most restrictions on abortion, but she's not officially changed her position. She actually criticized the draft ruling. She criticized the leak of the draft, I should say. She's never signed on to reconsidering Roe. She didn't sign on to the Mississippi brief to reconsider, to support the Mississippi ban. In a lot of ways, she's kind of like, Senator from Pennsylvania, Ben Casey Jr., where nominally he was pro-life. He was elected as generally being pro-life. He's voted for some restrictions on abortion, but he just came out in favor of, the Democratic abortion bill, which would allow for abortion access nationwide at a pretty liberal level. So that's going to be an interesting thing to look at as well. That's a specific vulnerability that she would have if she were to run again. That's one thing she could easily shift to the right. I'm not saying she's vulnerable. I'm saying, though, if she wants to stick around, you want to be absolutely sure. You might see less of that bipartisan, more Capito, and more leaning into stuff other Republicans have focused on more.
And as we get into it now, folks, I do want to say it is now 9 p.m. Eastern time. Polls have closed across the state of Nebraska as we now are getting prepared to see primary results in from the Cornhusker State. Of course, the big key race tonight is the expected to be three-way. There's more candidates, but it's basically a three-way primary between Jim Pillin, Charles Herbster, both businessmen, both endorsed by different key figures in Nebraska. Pillin is endorsed by current and popular Governor Pete Ricketts. Herbster is endorsed by Trump, while more moderate state legislator Brett Lindstrom from Omaha has also been polling rather high. As Kraz mentioned earlier on the stream, it's important to remember Nebraska is a pretty heavily suburban state. 60% of the population comes from about 3 or 4 counties, Sarpy, Douglas, and Lancaster. It will be key tonight to see who outperforms, of course, and that should be mentioned. Herbster has had credible accusations from eight women regarding sexual assault. Should we mention that has hurt Herbster in that regard. His polling while he is still polling around 25-26%, polling has stagnated for him since those accusations came out. We, of course, will still be waiting for the first results tonight. We did see results come in relatively quickly, at least start to come in relatively early in West Virginia. We had results about 10 minutes after poll closures. Hopefully we see a similar thing tonight in Nebraska. But we've already heard from Dylan, but Eric, we want to hear, of course, your thoughts on this key primary. Kind of what are your thoughts? What's going through your head right now, and who do you think is kind of the favorite right now of these three candidates, Pillin, Herbster, and Lindstrom, going into tonight as we wait for first results?
Well, I don't know if I can identify a favorite. What I can say is the Trump endorsement here, like a lot of endorsements, was early. I don't think if he would have endorsed Herbster after these allegations, but he's also not withdrawn his his endorsement. It's worth noting he has withdrawn endorsements before. He withdrew his endorsement for Mo Brooks, for example, very notably because he was going to lose. Apparently losing is more of a problem for former President Trump than possibly committing serial sexual assault and harassment.
Well,
which
Trump's
is
done those things. So
yeah, which is, I mean, yeah. But what I will say is you do want to keep an eye on a lot of those suburban areas. Nebraska is a very, very, like Kraz said, it's a very suburban state. It's much more suburban than people give it credit for. If you actually drew a map just of I'm actually going to show you real quick. I'm going to pull up Dave's redistricting app and show you kind of what this looks like, what we're talking about when we say Nebraska is a suburban state. So you got this up right here. So these counties over here, these are the Omaha-based counties. So let's just draw in all of these counties right here. This is a lot of land, 80,000 people. Throw in all this land right here, 400,000 people. Like, that's not a lot. Let's take it even further in. Let's go in through here. It's 140. All this land right here, go ahead and just get rid of these three. All this land right here is only a third of the population of the state.
wow.
That's pretty big. And you'll notice right here, this land voted for Trump by 55 percentage points. That is a lot. If it was at state, this would be the most conservative state in the country. This is actually the most conservative subunit in the Electoral College because Nebraska has their votes by congressional districts. So if you look at congressional districts or states, by far the most conservative. So you do that right here. So go into Omaha. Omaha itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, Eric, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you here, but I believe we might be getting our first results here of the night. I'm seeing reports of it at least. We'll go back to you. I want you to keep this up because I think it's very important for us to talk about this here. But as we go into the night here, it looks like we are getting some early results here. Not yet on DDHQ, but from another very highly respected source of ours in the New York Times. They are starting to report some early results. Brett Lindstrom has the lead right now because he is leading in Lancaster County, which is where Lincoln is. Again, as we were just mentioning, a lot of population. Lancaster, Douglas, Sarpy. That's where a lot of population is. Eric, actually, could you using the third district? Could you highlight those three counties for us, please?
Yeah. So let's go ahead. So you can see. I'll just claim real quick. This total land right here, the second district, that's 2/3 of the state, is only Trump plus 1. So that gives you an idea. So let's take in Lincoln, and what was your other two? It was Omaha.
The ones around Sarpy and Douglas. The ones around.
Yeah. So these three counties right here are collectively about Biden plus 7, and they contain well over a congressional district. In fact, nearly 2 congressional districts. The remainder of this land right here, if you want to put it this way, just highlight it like this, is about Trump plus 37. So these are kind of like 3 regions to kind of pay attention to. Lincoln, Nebraska is the most liberal county in Nebraska. People look at Omaha. Omaha is actually less liberal by measure than Lincoln.
It's called Lancaster County.
Lancaster, yeah. Well, Lancaster is home to a big college. It's home to, I believe, the University of Nebraska.
Yep.
It is the most liberal county in Nebraska. If you look at the death penalty referendum in Nebraska, I'm trying to find my actual map that I made of the death penalty in Nebraska. I believe it was the only county in Nebraska to vote against bringing the death penalty back. So that gives you an idea. Omaha, it's more swingy, it's more competitive. Lincoln is kind of where you would expect more liberal votes to be. So if I'm a Republican, I'm interested in Lincoln, but I'm also really interested in this big chunk of voters right here in these other 2 districts. If this is going to be a situation like Matt Dolan, where you have one candidate doing really well in the urban areas, and then you have Trumpier candidates doing well in the rurals, that could be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, so those are just kind of the first results for tonight. But yeah, I think that's certainly an important figure to make here when you're looking at kind of how we look at results in Nebraska. Obviously, even though those are more Democratic counties, obviously there are still a lot of Republican voters in and around Omaha and around Lincoln. There are still quite a lot of Republican voters in those counties still. That's going to be key here when you look at kind of what's going to be going on and what happens here. Dylan, I'm going to want to bring you in here. If Herbster does end up losing this primary, it would kind of be the first blow to former President Trump's endorsement record in contested primaries this year. Again, we are only considering contested primaries in terms of his endorsement record. He is certainly, as we saw today in Pennsylvania and in Kentucky, he is endorsing many incumbents who are not facing any primary challengers or any serious primary challengers in states to kind of boost that. But Herbster would be kind of a first loss for him. How much would you say this is out of his control because of sexual assault and harassment complaints that came out after the endorsement? But how much do you say is also maybe sometimes kind of this issue of Trump and his team maybe not vetting candidates to a certain point? We've seen this in Alaska as well, too. Kelly Shibaka. Eric, you have something, though. I see your hand raised.
Yeah, we have a decision desk has results coming in from Sarpy County, which is another very important county here that's home to Omaha. Has Lindstrom in front with 47% of the vote.
Wow.
That's Douglas. That's Douglas County.
That is Douglas.
Sorry, Douglas County. Herbster is in third with 17%. Pillin is in second with 25%. Again, want to stress these are early results. Last week, we saw this very clearly. Where Dolan did really, really well in these early returns. We don't know if these are early votes or election day votes, but Dolan did very well in urban areas. We thought he was going to do a little bit better than he did because we only have these urban counties coming in. I really want to see how rural Nebraska votes here, where there's going to be a ton of Republican primary voters.
Yeah.
That is, it should be said, though, that is a pretty big result, though.
It is,
for Lindstrom. That is a pretty, especially coming from Douglas County, which, as we mentioned, not a small in terms of a Republican voter base. It is a Democratic county now, but certainly not small in terms of a Republican voting base. It is also, it should be mentioned, though, it is also Lindstrom's home county.
And but it's also a nearly 2-to-1 vote. It's nearly a 2-to-1 advantage. I do not expect Herbster to win. The Trump endorsement will help him, but 8 credible sexual assault allegations plus the more suburban balance in the state, I think, is going to kneecap him. And is this out of Trump's control? No, of course not. He's revoked endorsements before. He revoked an endorsement for Mo Brooks. But Mo Brooks had the audacity to say something Trump didn't like. So that's why that endorsement got revoked. And he was going to lose. But
I do want to mention real quick, though, on the Bacon primary, Don Bacon is up 82 to 18.
Hooray!
So that's another indication here.
Positive outcome.
That was expected. I think Trump didn't even endorse Bacon's opponent, which I think is a real show of
he
how
gave him
much...
a pretty strong shout out in his rally in Nebraska, but apparently it was not a full-throated endorsement.
He also gave Josh Mandela a shout out at his Pennsylvania rally by accident.
That was funny.
But no, I mean, this is not outside Trump's control. He could have vetted his candidates a little bit better. This is a repeated problem for him. He endorsed Dr. Oz without consulting anybody. He endorsed J.D. Vance after consulting with all his supporters in the state who said, don't do it. And he endorsed Herbster before doing any research and seeing that he had 8 credible sexual assault allegations forthcoming. That's not outside of his control, and it will hurt the power of his endorsement. I don't think by much, because as you mentioned, in 2018, I wanted to call him Mark Gordon, beat out Trump's endorsed candidate for Wyoming's gubernatorial race. So I don't expect this to be a big blow, especially since the story of the night's going to be Alex Mooney. But yeah, I mean, this is something Trump could have prevented. And the fact that he doesn't repeatedly doesn't vet his candidates is, I think, indicative of a larger problem with Trump.
And he's getting lucky in some of these. Like in North Carolina, you had the Ted Budd endorsement, which came out of nowhere. Ted Budd sat on his butt for 8 months. And then finally, only started to get ahead when he actually decided to start campaigning and spending money. And even Trump came into North Carolina. He did that way too early. Like, it corrected itself later, it seems like, but that was a strategic mistake. The Mo Brooks one is a major mistake. That's a disaster of an endorsement. Such a failure of an endorsement, in fact. We really want to keep an eye on some of these stuff, but like Trump's value in an endorsement is inherently limited to what it could be. Ooh, okay, we got a rural county in. We got a rural county in Nebraska.
And it's going in for Jim Pillin, I believe, by big margins again.
Herbster in second, Lindstrom in third, but Herbster a distant second. 42% for Pillin, 25% for Herbster, 23% for Lindstrom. And this is going to be interesting then. This is Herbster. If Herbster wants to be dominating in these counties because he's getting demolished in the urban areas, to put it lightly.
Yeah, if Herbster is going to have any chance, he needs to really rack up the margins in these rural counties. It's too early to say based on one incomplete county result, but that's not what Herbster wants to be seeing right now. And I think it's indicative of the Trump endorsement can get you places, but it can't get you across the finish line. You actually have to, be a competent candidate running a good campaign.
We do have two more rural counties coming in right now. Red Willow, again, coming in big here for Jim Pillin with Brett Lindstrom in second. We do have the first one up for Charles Herbster. He's winning Sherman County, which is a very, very small county, but he's winning there. The kind of evenness of those results almost make me think they could potentially be early results. Unofficial results, test results, some would say in that regard. But right now, Herbster does have the lead there. But again, going to be interesting to see if Lindstrom continues to dominate around kind of that Omaha, Lincoln area, if Pillin and those smaller counties can make up the margins there. That's what we're watching now. But are you guys surprised? I think, at least I'm surprised, how well Lindstrom is doing in those big counties. That's certainly, I think, better than what at least I expected.
We have a call. We have a call from Decision Desk. Decision Desk has called Don Bacon as the winner in that 2nd district primary. It appears, according to the website, at least they've called it.
Yes, I've seen that. Yes.
I haven't seen a tweet announcement, but there is the check mark next to the name, which denotes the winner. So that is something to note here, is that he's won easily and convincingly.
No, Joe, to answer your question, I'm actually not surprised by how well Lindstrom is doing. These areas tend to these are suburbs. They tend to like more moderate Republicans, moderate Democrats, like Don Bacon. I'm not surprised that the more moderate state legislature candidate is doing well, especially with the more conservative vote split between, I'm blanking on the other candidate besides Herbster.
Pillin,
thank you. The conservative vote is being split between Pillin and Herbster, so Lindstrom's just kind of walking into it.
Yeah, certainly some interesting numbers there. So we're trying to, as I'm trying to check here, as we see more rural counties come in. We have seen Hall County come in here now for Pillin, with Lindstrom very close behind. Another very small county, Boone County, in for Herbster, with Pillin not far behind. Again, very interesting races here as we kind of continue on here going into the night. Looking at it right now, though, we're starting to see some of these smaller counties come in now as their votes come in. But again, the question is kind of right now whether or not they can make up the margins from Lindstrom's big victories in and around Omaha and Lincoln. Can those margins be made up? That is going to be the key question tonight. Jim Pillin seems right now the best to be looking at right now here, Eric. You're giving me a weird look right there, Eric. I think I know what you're weird looking at right now.
Yeah, I'm going to check New York Times here.
According to the website, that is an error.
But they tweeted it out too. That's the weird thing. They tweeted it out. Huh. Yeah, they've unconfirmed it. That's very odd. They tweeted out an automatic update. I think this is incorrect.
Yeah, I believe that was an automatic update. If you could tell them what that was about, Eric.
Yeah, so Decision Desk is showing Carol Miller actually losing her primary because another candidate is winning like Stalin-esque margins in one of the other counties in Fayette County. This is clearly an error, and I think they just automatically tweeted this out. That there's been no adjustment. Carol Miller is the winner in this race. I was just greatly confused looking at it because it made literally no sense. And when something makes very little sense, you can generally just discount it because it makes no sense.
Except when Ron Hood is winning major margins over Mike DeWine, then you don't discount it.
Yeah, that's very true. We're seeing some more rural counties come in here. Polk County coming in big here again for Jim Pillin. Again, very small county, about 18% of the vote in there. Pillin is taking about 49% of the vote, but that's only 106 votes. Richardson County, Charles Herbster with a big win here in Richardson. He's taking 52% of the vote, but that's only 232 votes. According to DDHQ, and also that's also only that's only I believe that's only 30. That's with 35% of the vote in from that county there. So that's still quite a good bit right there.
Yeah,
of the vote in. Again, we've talked about this before. The question is now if Lindstrom's big margins in and around Lincoln and Douglas. The question is going to become, what does the election day vote show for him? And can mainly it looks like right now Jim Pillin, it looks like he's going to be the candidate, kind of really maybe the one to maybe take over tonight in terms of that regard here. Herbster, even though he's winning some of these smaller counties, I don't know if he's going to be able to get the margin in some of these larger counties to be able to really pull it out here. Decision Desk HQ is expecting 19% of the vote right now. They're estimating Lindstrom has around 43.7% of the vote totals in. Pillin is taking 28.4%, excuse me, and Herbster is about 18% of the vote in right now. We're seeing that big gap right now.
Sorry, by the way, I just read the quote Trump gave about Don Bacon's challenger. Steve, whoever you are, good luck. That's a very powerful endorsement.
Strong and powerful endorsement.
That's inspiring. I'm just having heard that. I've not been so inspired since I heard Kamala Harris talk about about space and what space means. That's about empowerment.
Oh man.
If that's the endorsement, I'm not surprised this guy is doing. I am surprised he's doing so poorly in the district, because you would think at least Bacon would have irritated someone enough to vote against him. But no, 80 to this is embarrassing for Steve Cool, whatever he's running on.
I do find the votes for Jim Fortenberry kind of funny.
Yeah.
Why is anybody giving him 7% of the vote?
They probably just recognize the name Fortenberry and don't know anything else.
Okay, fair enough. With these results, I do not expect Herbster to win. I won't say he's out, but I'll say he's out.
Yeah.
This seems like Lindstrom and Pillin, and with Herbster in the race, I don't expect Pillin to overcome that margin.
Well, we do have a big result in Madison County, which is one of these bigger rural counties. Pillin taking about 48% of the vote there. There's only about 20% in. That is a county that is theoretically big enough that if he were to close the gap in a place like Douglas or Lancaster, that would help him out in that regards there. If he were to do better there in that regard, that would certainly help out Pillin.
What are the other big suburban counties? Sarpy, Lancaster, Douglas.
That's really it. Cass
okay.
County, which is kind of in that Lancaster, Omaha, Lancaster, Douglas, Sarpy area. That's another bigger one there.
Okay.
But
yeah. Having looked at the cool platform here, it's really weird. The website is strange. The biggest thing I noticed is that he doesn't like the death penalty, which is kind of weird. That's kind of a very weird.
That's respectable.
A lot of conservative Republicans in Nebraska have been convinced by elected ones seeking elected office. I should note the actual referendum on the death penalty in Nebraska, which I had those and I was going to show them because it actually kind of gives an idea of how liberal Lincoln, Nebraska is. Builds up right here. This gives you an idea of like there is some, this is, they supported keeping the death penalty by 23 points. Lincoln was the one area, Lincoln, Nebraska, the city, not the county, was the only area to oppose, keeping the death or retaining the death penalty. Or it was confusingly worded.
That's very confusingly worded.
The reason it's worded like that is the legislature passed a bill to abolish the death penalty. The referendum was to repeal that bill. So if you wanted to, the referendum was whether to repeal the bill or retain the bill.
That's confusing.
It's not confusing at all.
I've got a simpler one for you. Do you want the death penalty? Yes or no?
That's not how it works because they had to do it to repeal legislation, that's a citizen override to repeal legislation. And so it defaults to.
I actually kind of like that.
Yeah. So, I'm going to
we do have more results coming in right now. Again, we're starting to see some more of these rural counties come in here for Jim Pillin. We also have a kind of a Dodge County, which is kind of in that suburban range. Brett Lindstrom is narrowly beating Jim Pillin there, about estimated 61% of the vote in right now. This does seem to be tracking right now towards a Lindstrom-Pillin race. Herbster is only pulling about 18.5% of the vote right now, while Pillin's at 29.5 and Lindstrom's at around 42. And considering the fact that we see Pillin continues to do significantly better in these rural counties than Herbster's doing, I feel like that Herbster's kind of on the outside looking into this race. That would be the first key endorsement loss in a contested primary for President Donald Trump this year. Again, and this kind of brings back to a theory I've had for a while. Trump endorsements have been weaker. I know Wyoming, we've talked about Wyoming, but it's just kind of been a fact that Trump endorsements have been weaker in states and areas that have been relatively Republican for a longer time than, maybe newer or, states have become more Republican or have grown stronger Republicanism like West Virginia has since the Trump era. We're seeing it again in Idaho, which is, again, a longtime Republican state. His endorsed candidate, Janice McKeachin, really struggling to catch on there. Again, don't forget that primary is next week too, folks. Idaho is next week already. Don't forget that.
To be fair, she's running an abysmal campaign, like a genuinely abysmal campaign.
She is. I mean, hey, that's very true. But I think Dylan talked about this again, though. It's kind of this idea of sometimes Trump just slapping his name onto someone and then that candidate not living up to expectations.
Well, yeah, I think candidates got a little comfortable with the Trump years, where the Trump endorsement, he could just slap his name on your campaign and you'd win. No, you actually have to run a campaign. I thought, and I could be wrong, I thought Trump revoked his endorsement for the Idaho gubernatorial.
That has been rumored. That has not actually happened, but I know what you're talking about. I believe 2.5 weeks ago, an article was released by the New York Times that Trump was privately potentially considering unendorsing McKeachin. That obviously hasn't happened yet, but all polling continues to show the current Governor Little pretty strongly in the lead right now there in Idaho. We'll see, of course, next week. That will be part of our coverage, as well as coverage of North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Oregon next week. Next week's a big primary, folks. You really should be here for that one there. That will be a big night. It will be a long night, we expect. But certainly for sure there, like I said, as we continue to get more results in right now across the state of Nebraska, it does continue to look like, again, another rural county in Jim Pillin leading over Charles Herbster in Buffalo County, 36 to 27.8 right now. Again, as long as Pillin's continuing to finish over Herbster in these rural counties, there's really not a path to victory for Herbster to try and overtake Lindstrom on Election Day vote. He would have to win it dominatingly. I don't expect that to maybe really be the case right now. So far, it looks like. would have to be said that it does look like the case right now that the sexual assault and harassment allegations have certainly hurt Herbster in that regard right now. Very reasonably, if the depth and the dearth of the accusations are all true, then very well deserved backlash here for Herbster in the state of Nebraska. Just a small update on results right now. Lindstrom has around 41.6% of the votes right now. Pillin's around 29.6%. Herbster around 18.7% statewide. Again, folks, certainly too early to call right now, but we are definitely looks like that this is going to be down between election day vote between Lindstrom and Pillin. It does not look like Herbster is going to be able to get the numbers he would need on election day, like we've seen other Trump candidates do to win this primary.
Yeah, it is encouraging to see that the Trump endorsement can't override sexual assault allegations. That's good. Sorry, Eric, you looked like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was going to throw a little bit of caution. I think Lindstrom's in a good spot. It is worth noting most of the vote in right now is from those urban, suburban counties. We don't have a lot in from rural Nebraska left. And there are some smaller counties that Herbster's doing quite well in. Sherman, Antelope, Richardson. He's over 50% of the vote in Richardson County.
That is his home county, I should mention.
Yeah, that's his home county. So we've got, according to Decision Desk, we got 60% of the vote in from Dodge, 67% in from Douglas, 48% from Lancaster, nothing in from Sarpy yet. Whereas, most of these other counties in the rural western portion of the state have not reported anything yet. I'll actually go ahead and show the map here, just to give you an idea. This is 22% of the vote in. We've got barely any counties in. So that's just the only word of caution. I think we're in a good spot. I don't entirely want to count Herbster out yet because I don't know how a lot of this area is going to go. This is the really conservative areas of the state. These are counties that voted against Ben Sass in 2020. Actually, let me look up in.
Yeah, if you could bring that up for sure, please.
Yeah. No, certainly. I'm not counting him out, but
yeah, just throw it. Just like Ben Sass in the general, he won every county in the state. In the primary, these are the counties he did less well in. He did pretty poorly in some of these northern counties. He won the primary 75 to 25, but in some of those counties over there, this specific window right here. So like if you follow this little demographic, this little trail, this is where I want to kind of focus on the cutoff on these counties right here. There's not a lot of votes here, but that's what I want to keep an eye on.
Can we see the color grade again? Like what the margin means? Because it looks like 60. The only candidate we have from that area is Antelope, where
we have, I believe it looks like Lincoln was in that regard as well, and kind of in that lower area we have Pillin doing,
which is good for Pillin.
Yes,
but that's just what I want to keep an eye on, that little sliver. That's the wild card area. If Herbster wants to get back in this thing, or if Pillin wants to kind of take a big shot at this, he wants to do really well in those areas. The rest of the state gave Stalin-esque margins to Ben Sass, but that portion of the state was much more competitive.
Yeah, we are starting to get our first results now from again some of these Omaha and Lincoln adjacent counties. Saunders County are putting some votes in again. And Sarpy, but very, very small margin from Sarpy, only 6% estimated in. Lindstrom take around 41% right now. Pillin with around 28.8%. Herbster with only 20%. Again, if that kind of continues at the margin throughout the night, we'll see how that kind of goes right there as we kind of continue the night on.
Yeah. So this is Sarpy is going to be a big one. Lindstrom's doing about as well as he was doing in Douglas and Lancaster, and some of the other ones, Saunders as well. I wouldn't consider that to be a huge county to pay attention to. It's really Sarpy and Douglas. That's the core of the 2nd congressional district. So that's what I really keep pay attention to. But yeah, that's just what I'm covering it to right now.
Yeah. Since we don't have any more results, can we shout out Santa Claus in Alaska? I'm sorry, I had to.
Certainly some interesting numbers there out of that Alaska poll today for sure.
What was this poll? I didn't see a poll. What was this Alaska poll?
There, I forget where it was exactly, but if you look it up, if you look up like Alaska poll here, I'm sure it'll come up. But Kraz was actually one of the top 4 candidates in the race, actually.
Which
and, had to show him in the final 4, which had him eliminated in the first round, of course. But he was there.
Hey, makes my Democratic Socialist heart happy. But it also had Pillin losing, which not great for Trump, but
oh yeah, I see the poll. Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so you get granted, there were polls in 2016 that were indicating that these nuts would win anywhere from like 5% of the vote on in states, and I think he ended up with less than 1,000 votes nationwide.
Sure.
So
sure,
so,
but Santa Claus is more pleasant to vote for than these nuts.
Yes,
you feel less silly.
Yeah, and then of course the Democratic Party is actually going very hard against Outgross this time. They are not supporting Outgross. They actually accused him of, for some reason on Facebook, said he would caucus with the Republicans, which makes no sense at all.
They're sleeping on Al Gross?
Yeah.
For shame.
Yeah, so here's some more counties that I was kind of talking about where Herbster would need to get really good margins, and he's not getting, I don't think 37% of the vote in Antelope or Holt is going to really do you too much in a statewide election. You're going to need to be doing a little bit better than that to get back in this thing.
Yeah. But if we see the same trend with the more Trumpy voters being the in-person voters, maybe that margin increases.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I'm not as convinced with Herbster as I was for Mooney.
Yeah, but going back to Alaska, it's that the real race there is between Begich and Pillin. Begich has the brunt of the Alaska Republican Party endorsements. And in a sane, rational election system, you would have a primary where Alaska's Republican voters could decide which candidate would represent the Alaska Republican Party in the election. Instead, Alaska decided by about 2% of the vote or less to have this crack system where you have 4 candidates on a ballot, and it's going to take a month to get the results in for that. And then they all run against each other in the general with ranked choice. It's going to take another month to decide when that comes in. If you can tell, I don't like jungle primaries. That's the case. But the actual probably top 2 in that race are probably going to be Begich and Pillin in all likelihood.
That poll actually had the top 2 being Gross and Begich.
No, the most recent one, at least the Alaska survey one, had Pillin at 19, Begich at 16. Gross
no, I mean
13.
in the final round.
Oh, in the final one, interesting.
Yeah, in the final round, it was Begich Gross.
Oh yeah, there were 3 different versions there. There is a one-on-one between Begich and Gross, a one-on 3-way. Oh, there was a RCV count that had there. So there was one version of it that had Gross and Begich, another that had Begich and Gross. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting to look at. I'm not really sure what to look at here. That's likely voters. It's Alaska. Polling is garbage.
I just want look, this is going to be a bad year for Democrats. If I have to live in a stupid world, I want to live in a stupid world where Santa Claus and Dr. Oz are government representatives. I don't want Dr. Oz to be a government representative. But if I have to live in a stupid world, can I live in a stupid funny world?
Yes, and to answer Andy Pham in the comments said Alaska is using top 4, not top 2. Yes, but it does do a runoff, and the runoff will ultimately be between a top 2, unless somehow someone gets 50% of the vote in the first or second round, which is very unlikely. Very, very unlikely.
And yeah, it is. And I also
the ultimate point is to resolve to a top 2.
Mm-hmm. And I also think no, it's okay. I was going off topic. I think there's a 1% chance Dr. Oz switches to a Democrat. So that's a higher chance.
Well, no, it's going to be awkward. I will say, given the recent tweets that came out, it'll be very awkward if Kathy Barnett wins that primary. I don't know who Oz is going to endorse because Kathy Barnett has some very, very specific views about Muslims, and Dr. Oz is Muslim. He's a more secular. Yes. He's from Turkey. He's more secular. That's
Dr. Oz is from. Wait, Dr. Oz is from Turkey? That hasn't been made an issue in this primary.
It's not been made an issue at all. But, if you're an educated, you're an educated person from Turkey, you're probably a secular Muslim. Faith has not been really an issue in the campaign at all. I don't think anyone's made it an issue. I would be surprised if Oz endorses Barnett after all this, because the stuff goes beyond the pale. It's some pretty offensive stuff.
The tweets from Kathy Barnett are vile.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. Again, bad candidate. Bad.
No, but hey, Joe's only wish was for the Virginia Republican Party to be competent, and that has come at the cost of all the dumb going to the Pennsylvania Republican Party.
The monkey paw has curled on me. I'll say this live. If God is listening to me in some way right now, I will trade success in Pennsylvania, at the statewide level, not local level. Mm-hmm. I need that to be good too, but at the statewide level, I will trade good things there. If you have the Washington Capitals go to the Stanley Cup Finals, if that happens, I will accept that trade. That is a trade I will accept.
So what I'm hearing is if they go to the Stanley Cup, Senator John Fetterman and Governor Josh Shapiro.
I will accept that result.
I accept that trade.
I will probably be happier with the Capitals winning the Stanley Cup than I would be continuing to deal with the nonsense in Pennsylvania. Being totally honest there. I will probably be a happier person.
Look, I'm thrilled with that outcome because I don't care about the Stanley Cup and I kind of like John Fetterman. So this is a win.
You see that as an absolute win. Meanwhile, I see this as very bad.
Sorry, Eric.
Eric, you've been forsaken by your co-host.
Yeah, I'll say this. In North Carolina, when we have a Republican stepping out of line, we just dump all the opposition research onto their head. And then dump even more opposition research, and then just keep dumping it on them, and just keep dumping it on them.
Has that happened lately? I can't tell. I can't think of any recent instance of that.
So what I'm saying is just a suggestion for the Pennsylvania GOP. If you have an oppo file, the best time to release that is like a month before the election, not 5
apparently
days.
The plan is now to get together a meeting tomorrow between Corman, White, Barletta, and McSwain, and convince someone to drop some combination of the three to drop out and endorse the other person, and have that happen 6 days before the primary happens. Of course, maybe this is, without Trump basically nuking the early vote in Pennsylvania.
That seems like an odd choice to do that a week before the primary. You probably wanted to do that a month early.
Now you see the Pennsylvania Republican Party. And it's local. It's it's a GOP based level here. The chairman and the statewide chairman and chair, vice chair and all that are incompetent. So when you have incompetence there, stupid. Stupid things happen, and stupid things are currently happening right now. So in a moment of near desperation, because all models and polling show Mastriano losing by no less than 7 points to Josh Shapiro, which would be very bad.
You're saying it's not, nominating a QAnon adjacent candidate in a statewide race could end poorly?
Absolute meme.
You're telling me that nominating a guy who went to a rally that showed 9/11 as a false flag in a video may go poorly in a state that had a 9/11 event happen in it. You're telling me that might go bad. You're telling me that a guy who basically based his entire campaign since he's been there on basically being more MAGA than Trump might go poorly in a state like Pennsylvania. You're telling me that the guy who pushed the audit the vote nonsense, who the person who was part of audit the vote said they didn't have any negligible results in an article this weekend. They said that to a legitimate news source. They said that they did not have any actual information, but they think the voting was rigged anyway. You don't think that might cause some issues, Eric? You're telling me
you're saying more MAGA than Trump, which is what Rick Saccone ran on and he lost. You're saying that's not a good idea.
no.
Wait, but more MAGA. More MAGA means more good, right?
It's ultra MAGA. It's ultra MAGA.
Ultra
yeah,
MAGA.
It's ultra MAGA now. Yeah.
I thought that was a total win in Pennsylvania. Absolute meme if you manage to stop Mastriano, but Kelly Barnett somehow sneaks past McCormick and Oz.
You know what? I take that trade at this point. I'll take that trade. I would take that trade, honestly. That would be better.
Man, I'm surprised they haven't dumped all their oppo on Mastriano. I mean,
because they thought Trump was going to endorse someone not named Mastriano, and then he never did. This is the other side of it, where it's called you can't always rely on that. You morons.
I mean, God, they nuked Madison Cawthorn's career.
Yeah.
Well,
they pulled out
cocaine and orgies and stuff like that, and apparently that's the line. So
yeah, don't talk about their coke or anything. Don't talk about that.
No.
Yeah,
the other stuff.
The funny thing though,
bad idea.
The more I read, I'm actually convinced it's not entirely because of that. He would just been genuinely pissing off Republicans for like months. Like when he said he was going to move to run a different primary, and then Dallas Woodhouse's wife, tweeted that this is or not. It was Susan Tillis tweeted out that they didn't really want him running in South Charlotte in a Charlotte-based seat, and that was kind of dumb. Cawthorn basically texted Tom Tillis and was like, "Hey, why did your wife tweet this?" And he said something to the effect of, "Maybe because you attacked her husband." And he's like, "Oh, I just called you a rhino. I didn't think that would mean we can't be friends." Something along that line.
Wait, you're telling me that just pointing at everyone and calling them all rhinos might not make them your friends? No.
Yeah. Wait, you're telling me that Madison Cawthorn might be a little dim?
Yeah, like basically what it took to get to the Cawthorn point. That was the breaking point. Was the cocaine sex orgies? That was the thing that was like, okay, that's the point of last term. But people were mad when he moved. People were mad when he decided overnight that he was going to be the leader of the North Carolina Republican Party and nominate primary challengers in almost every district. People are like, no, you can't do that. That's dumb. You should not be doing that. All sorts of just stupidity, just general stuff, campaign fraud. Most of the apparently a lot of the most devastating oppos coming from internal supporters. Oddly enough, people who had supported him are putting out pretty devastating oppo leaks. Apparently, this is not coming from Democrats or from the establishment. It's coming from people who are really on board for Cawthorn. All that aside, you could have done that in Pennsylvania. I mean, Twitter is public record. If you are running another primary team, I am begging you as a campaign manager, get someone to look at the other person's Twitter. Literally, it takes 5 minutes. Just search a bunch of random terms. If you're in a Republican primary, just search Obama, search Muslim, search, COVID, just search any number of terms that could lead to something stupid. Search, Black Lives Matter, see if they said anything about that. Search any number of offensive remarks. You could just look at that on Twitter. And usually the people who say that stuff are not smart enough to delete their tweets. You could have figured this out months ago. This stuff was on her Twitter today.
But again, Eric, you see the North Carolina Republican Party is a competent organization. The Pennsylvania Republican Party has not been a competent organization for a while now. Even with 2016 and with some of the luck that we got in 2020, this has not been a competent organization.
Yeah, you guys got really lucky.
Failure of a statewide chair. Let's get that just out in the way here. This is a man who doesn't know how to communicate, who just kind of sits there. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't build up a bench. This is part of the failures that we haven't built up a goddamn bench at all.
And this is with a supermajority in the legislature.
This is called as what was the movie here? You know the term I'm looking for here. You get what you effing deserve. This is the Pennsylvania Party getting what they effing deserve at this point. A failure of party leadership has occurred here. It's happened for far too many times. And if we get the double negative outcome, and that leads to the general election double negative outcome, heads need to roll. And it needs to be from common sense people who are tired of losing. You cannot run in a swing state and continuously lose in good years for the party. If we lose in 2014 and 2022, certain people need to go away from the party and never come back again. It cannot happen. It should not happen. And if it happens 2 Republican favored cycles in a row, then again, people need to be answering for this issue.
And another thing, another point I would make is if I don't have any experience in campaign management, but even I know it's probably a good idea to just delete all your tweets. Just delete all your tweets.
No, if I ever, I would never run for office, but if I'm ever office adjacent, my Twitter's getting nuked. Even if I'm just office adjacent, my Twitter's getting nuked.
Kraz has the right idea. Kraz has the absolute right idea. He vanishes from Twitter from time to time.
I don't think I've tweeted anything that I don't stand by. But I'm not taking.
You don't think. And then you look back 5 years later, and the one bad take you put on there, it gets found by a competent oppo team.
Oh, Eric, in 5 years, I will have said many things that I think are a bad take. Do you know me at all? No, Joe, I actually had a question real quick. That thing you said about all the candidates meeting to convince somebody to drop out, is that wish casting or is that happening?
It's reported in the Inquirer. It might be happening.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that was wish casting or not.
Yeah. Okay. I do have an update from Nebraska. It looks like, according to a decision desk HQ at least, they're saying over 95% of the vote is now in Douglas County, which hosts Omaha. Brett Lindstrom ends with 42% of the vote there. Jim Pillin of 24.8% of the vote. Charles Herbster of 22.4% of the vote. Those seem to be the last results around Omaha tonight. Those seem to be the final results. We don't know for sure yet, of course. But statewide, Brett Lindstrom leads with about 38.3% of the vote. Jim Pillin is in second with 29.1%. Charles Herbster has gained a little bit now. He's at 22.2%. Again, with many of the rural counties left to go here. Where
here's an example.
We're getting about 31% of the vote in right now, apparently.
Yeah. So here's an example of what I was talking about with those western counties. Garden County right now, 624 votes. That's not a lot of votes, but if you look at Garden County, Herbster has 46%, Pillin has 33%, Lindstrom has 9%. That's pretty bad. If you look at Rock County, Herbster has 52%, Lindstrom has 22%, Pillin has 16%. Look at Holt County. Herbster 36, Pillin 27, Lindstrom 16. Is that enough for Herbster to come back? Probably not, but it does make it closer between Lindstrom and Pillin, is what I would say. Right now, it's within 10 points now. It's within 10 points there, and then between Pillin and Herbster, it's about 7 points.
That's what I was about to say. Herbster, I don't think is going to win, but he's not out of it, and he's more likely to. I think he has a solid chance of coming in second. I don't think he'll come in first, but I think he has a solid chance of placing a distant second to whoever the candidate is. I think it's probably Lindstrom, but I'm not as willing to place that bet as I was before we started talking about Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So DDHQ is saying that about 31% of the vote in the New York Times has a bit more in. If you go and look at the numbers there. It does seem like, again, though, we do see margins tightening right now. We're about an hour after polls closing in Nebraska. We're really going to just be waiting on some of these rural counties to come in here. We're going to be waiting for some of the bigger counties to finish counting here in, again, Sarpy, Lancaster, to finish counting here. It seems like Douglas is done. Those seem to be basically the final numbers right there in Douglas around Omaha. But again here, we see another drop in and around kind of these middle area counties outside of kind of that Omaha area, but before the real western part. We're seeing a lot of those come in strong here for Jim Pillin in this race. But I want to pose a question to the both of you. If Lindstrom is able to pull this off over both Pillin and Herbster, that means neither Ricketts or Trump got their favorite endorsed candidate. What's kind of the play here? Do you think that just the dominance of Lindstrom being from kind of the big areas and around the big areas makes the play here? I mean, kind of what does that say about kind of the state of the Nebraska GOP and what's kind of going on there right now in terms of internal battles within the state party?
It's pretty disaster. Do you want to go first, Dylan, or
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would say it's fairly disastrous for the base Republicans there in Nebraska, because Lindstrom is by far the most moderate of the candidate with the most moderate support. So what do I mean by that? What are Pillin's endorsements? Big names in the Republican Party. What are Lindstrom's endorsements? Brad Ashford, who's a Democrat,
dead,
and I believe, and dead. Now he died recently, which is very sad. But this is before death. The AFL-CIO of Nebraska on the Republican side only. They endorsed a Democrat as well. The mayor of Omaha, who is a Republican, but it's a moderate city. And then Bob Christ, who was a Democratic nominee for governor in 2018. So when 3 of your 4 major endorsements are Democrats or Democratic-leaning organizations, you would think you're not doing very well in the Republican primary. But if you're the only one from Omaha and you're doing really well in Omaha, that's not surprising. I'm not saying Lindstrom is not conservative. Lindstrom is very conservative fiscally. That's what he describes himself as. He appears to be, fiscally conservative. He's very anti-tax, so a lot of things suburban voters would be open for. But it would be a bit of a problem, if I would not have expected this, basically. He'd probably be a lot more moderate than you would expect on some social issues, perhaps more in line with what an Omaha Republican you would expect.
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree with all that. This is the expected result, I think, given that the conservatives have split themselves. Nebraska does have a moderate lean to it in some areas. So when the conservative vote gets divided, you get somebody who can sneak through. So I'm not too terribly surprised. And I don't think it really means much for the direction of the party. I think the party will just keep on trucking. I don't think Lindstrom is going to be like Spencer Cox in Utah, who does actually veto some conservative priorities. I think Lindstrom will probably be pretty close to a blank check. So I don't think this is disastrous for the state Republican Party, but this is definitely not their preferred outcome, and they need to unify their endorsements better if they want to avoid this in the future.
Yeah, I'm going to try to look at this real quick.
From Decision Desk here, as we're still waiting for some of those numbers here. I haven't gotten an update in a while here. We're still around 31% of the vote estimated in right now, but we're potentially waiting for a big drop here, potentially, that could hurt Lindstrom, according to some of the stuff I'm seeing on Twitter here, potentially from Sarpy. No, we're still waiting for some of these election day votes to come in right now as we continue to wait here. DDHQ, again, we're reporting about 31% of the vote in right now. Brett Lindstrom with the lead of around 38.3%, Jim Pillin with 29.2%, Charles Herster at 22.2%, as we're still kind of waiting for these final results to come in here.
Yeah, I do expect that if Lindstrom doesn't win, he comes in second. But if Pillin wins, if Lindstrom wins, I expect Herbster to be in second.
It is worth noting, I did look this up, Lindstrom was one of the senators to vote to repeal the death penalty. I don't expect this to be a huge issue I don't expect this to be a huge issue in the general, but that's worth noting and gives you an idea, more moderate on a lot of specific Nebraska things. That's still one of the weirdest, just random state movements where the Nebraska just decided to repeal the death penalty, and then the voters were like, nope.
Nebraska has some weird things going on.
Yeah, and then they still elected all these guys anyway. They still reelected them anyway. So they were like aggressively like, no, we don't like you doing this. Also, we're going to reelect you.
Yes,
it's a great bewildering.
Democrats do that all. That's a big Democrat move. I mean, we love electing people who do things we don't like. It's one of our favorite.
But yeah, again, we still got a lot of the state left. It's worth 31% of the vote in, and most of this vote appears to be coming from this Omaha Lincoln corridor, where the brunt of the state's population lives in this area, but the brunt of Republican voters do not live in that area, I would suspect. If you looked at I mentioned earlier, you take basically the map I drew. The Western District is Trump plus 55. You combine the other two districts, it averages out to Trump plus 1 for the remaining 2/3 of the state. So, gives you an idea of the sort of voters and political balance of these regions. I would say, Herbster, I would not, if I'm Herbster's campaign, I would not like where I'm at right now. I think Pillin, though, would be in a good position, I would think. I think Pillin is certainly to make a run for it.
Agreed.
I think we're probably all in agreement on that there. We're going to be very interesting to see here. Again, we're potentially waiting on a big drop still from Lancaster and Sarpy with the results here. We're still waiting on those drops right now, potentially here. From those, DDHQ does not have those yet. I will give a mention, however, though, to the New York Times. This is the New York Times. I will say this, though, right now, folks, they're reporting about 50% in. The totals that we have right now, Lindstrom, according to the New York Times, Lindstrom's at 35.4%. Pillin is at 29.6%, and Herbster is at 24.1%. That's because a big drop in Sarpy brought Herbster up to second place in Sarpy County. We're still waiting on results from Lincoln, but we still see, for the most part, with chunks of the vote in here, Lindstrom winning somewhat narrowly, but still winning a lot of the vote in around the Omaha area. But there's still about half of the state expected to go here. Most of it still from Lancaster and Sarpy. We still have some stuff as well, though, for some some moderately sized counties, Buffalo County, Plate County. Right now, those are counties where Pillin is leading Herbster right now. But we're still waiting on some of these other things right now. We're still waiting on some other key counties to come in here. Platte County has, which is Pillin's home county, has reported first, and he's up there pretty heavily in the lead.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just a result update right there from the New York Times, folks, if you're wanting to look elsewhere. As we're still waiting, I think, for some of the big drops in and around Omaha and that area for on here on Decision Desk HQ, which is kind of why I believe they're a little bit behind right now.
Oh, big drop in Cherry County.
Cherry County.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking over to Lindstrom because I've honestly was surprised by this. Lindstrom is probably the closest thing you would have to a Spencer Cox outside of Utah. Just from an article I looked at, very fiscally conservative, but he supported workplace protections for LGBT employees, deciding vote on death penalty repeal. And obviously Nebraska's legislature is nonpartisan. So that's why you get some of these weird cross-party endorsements. So he'd probably be among the most moderate Republican governors in the country on a lot of issues, economics not being among them. So, if you're probably a dyed-in-the-wool Ricketts person who is not a fan of the legislature pulling some of these more unusual actions you would expect from a conservative legislature, you probably want, you don't want Herbster, you probably want Pillin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, it looks like we're still waiting on some big drops from in and around Omaha of that election day vote here. That would be important.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think we're probably all in agreement here. It looks like Jim Pillin probably in a significantly better position right now than either Lindstrom or Herbster. Especially if Pillin wins some of these more medium-sized counties by a little bit more. That would be a big deal for sure as the night goes in here. So that would be a big deal for sure. Here's what we're looking in right now, folks. Again, as we continue to just kind of grab more of the vote coming in here, we're still waiting on some other key areas across the state, but we're continuing to get more and more of these rural counties as the night goes on here. We're starting to receive reports of of their votes here. We're starting to see more of them come in. As more of them do come in, we'll start to get a clearer picture here, especially in kind of this middle area where it seems to be more split towards Pillin. In terms of results, that might be the thing that throws him over the top here, for sure.
Yeah, I would actually really like to be Pillin right now. Again, this is a lot of votes left. This is 2/3 of the vote in. The brunt of the vote coming in from places that are not favorable to Lindstrom. I will say that there was, we also need to look at this as there was a recent effort in recent weeks for Democratic voters to re-register as Republicans to vote in the Republican primary. I think it was about 8,000 voters or so. Right now, the margin between Lindstrom and Pillin is about 6,000 votes. So, assuming everyone in that group voted for Lindstrom, that could be a deciding factor here. This is, again, according to the decision desk. I think New York Times may be slightly ahead on the Nebraska results.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So the margin. Come on, freaking paywall.
Okay, y'all. I'm going to head off for the night.
All right. Thank you to Dylan for being on with us tonight. He will be back next week as we go for the big one, the big fish. North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Oregon, and Idaho all next week. Very exciting night.
Going to be very fun. Can't wait.
Dylan, we will see you next Tuesday, and we will see you on Thursday for our usual Election Weekly podcast. Thank you for being on with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. Later, y'all.
Yep. So let's go ahead and look at the New York Times here, just to wait till decision desk catches up. You look at the votes here. Pretty clear ideological split. Herbster's doing really well in disconnected rural areas. Pillin's doing more well in these more central urban areas and then areas closer to the Omaha area. And then Lindstrom is doing really well in Omaha and Lincoln. They have I think New York Times is about 51% of the vote in. And the margin here is still under that 8,000 votes or whatever that switched parties, according to voting reports.
Yeah, that's certainly, again, like I think like we're saying right now, I think, again, like I said, I think we're probably in big agreement right now. Like we've all been saying, I'd certainly rather be Jim Pillin right now. Of course, in a state like Nebraska, these margins can change very quickly. Percentages can be much more deceiving in a place like Nebraska than a place like Ohio or North Carolina or Pennsylvania or any of the bigger states. Margins can be much more deceiving because, again, are we starting to see some updates on decision
totals? No, the totals still appear to be a little bit behind, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
It seems to be they're struggling to report some of these southeastern corridor areas that seem to account for a half decent percentage of the vote. It seems like they're struggling to report those in right now. If you look at the total. Yeah, so really kind of just continuing to look on here as we continue to get onto the night. It is now 10:05. Polls have been closed in Nebraska for over an hour now. Going into the night here, Eric, what's something, as you continue to look at things here, it does kind of seem like Pillin is continuing to kind of grow his lead here. Nebraska is in 2 time zones, I believe. So I think some of the western counties are in 2 time zones, so we might be waiting for some of them because of that. But I don't believe it's that many. If my belief is correct, it's only like 1 or 2 counties. It's not really that many. It's going to be a big stuff here, though. We're continuing to get some numbers in here. We got more. We got more from New York Times. Yes, we got another. 54% in now. We're seeing 34%, Pillin at 30%, Herbster at 25%. Yep. So again, probably still rather be Pillin than Herbster at this moment. Like looking at the counties that are in, there's still a lot of votes left in from Lancaster. About 33% of the votes left from there. About a third of the votes are left from Sarpy. Some of these other counties are like Dodge, Saunders, Otto. And then there's a couple like Washington and maybe Nemaha that I would expect to go for Lindstrom, given the geography. The problem is the rest of the state. Yeah, there's a lot of counties with no results, and I would much rather be Pillin than Lindstrom right now. Yep. To be blunt, I would much rather be that. Now, granted,
Lindstrom's not getting annihilated by Pillin in these counties, but if Pillin is pulling 40-50% in a lot of these adjacent counties to the Omaha region, and in a lot of those Herbster is ahead of Lindstrom, I would much rather be Pillin. Just right now, I would much rather be Pillin. It would not actually shock me. This would be a crackpot scenario. It would not actually shock me if Lindstrom fell to third. If all of Omaha reports, most of the votes are in from Omaha, it looks like. I would not be surprised if he were to get close to third or fall to third behind Herbster. That's just my guess based on I haven't looked at any math here.
Eric, I think we're going to want to shift to decision desk right now.
Perfect. Let's go right ahead.
So we're going to shift decision desk right now.
75%. Oh,
we're estimating 75% of the vote in right now. It seems like they're saying we have everything in basically from Douglas, Sarpy, and Lancaster. Lindstrom leading with 35.2% of the vote. Pillin around 30%. Herbster with around 24.6% of the vote. Still a lot of vote to be counted right now in those rural counties, but it looks like, Eric, could you bring those results actually up on the screen, please? That'd be very helpful, I think, for us tonight. Yeah. If we could see those up from Decision Desk, a massive drop from Decision Desk HQ, folks, here. They're estimating right now 75% in right now. Lindstrom still winning big around Lincoln and Omaha. That right now is currently giving him the lead. There's still quite a lot left in these rural counties right now. But
this is bad
right now. Really I would say that the apparent drop in Lancaster, I would have to say right now, probably the best news that Lindstrom has gotten in the last 30 minutes. If you hover over Lancaster, and everything just went back.
I guess they're to exactly where the New York Times is now. They're exactly to where the New York Times is.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is it looked like there was 95% in from Sarpy and Lancaster. And I was like, if all the votes are from Sarpy, Lancaster, and Douglas, Lindstrom is done. But right now it doesn't appear to be the case. They appear to have had it, but also says 39% in. But these vote totals are the same as the New York Times.
Yeah.
If I were to pull up, here we go.
I can bring it up. I have an account.
Go right ahead. You do that.
So if you remove yours here, let me share my screen. I have the times. There we go. Right there.
Yeah, the results, the vote totals appear to be nearly identical. Just Decision Desk says there's more votes out.
Yeah. I would don't know who to believe more here, but that's kind of crucial. The key is what votes are out and what votes are not out, the amount that's in. That's going to be really key to kind of what is and what isn't out right now. That's going to be really key right now for what's going to happen here going into the remainder of the night. That's really going to be key here is what vote is left, where is it at, and who's winning those numbers. Again, this does kind of feel like, as a gut feeling, this does feel more like a race again between Lindstrom and Pillin. I'm not totally countering out Herbster anymore. That result from Sarpy was very good for him. That's arguably brought him back into the race right now. But if that doesn't hold, if he doesn't get better results from elsewhere, it's hard for me to say that, these are kind of the numbers where we're at right now. But we're continuing to see kind of just these gaps in reporting results right now. Hopefully that will be seen and fixed soon, though, right now, folks. But again, we want to say right now, currently right now, 34.5% for Brett Lindstrom, 30.2% for Jim Pillin, and 25.1% right now for Charles Herbster. Right now, it does seem to be like right now Jim Pillin, considering the margins he's getting in the more rural counties, more Republican counties. He seems to be right now potentially an odds-on favorite. Okay. What are you getting at here, Eric? I'm guessing you have an update.
I think the New York Times may be off. Washington Post is also suggesting only 36% of the vote is in. I think New York Times is a little bit I think the New York Times is frankly a little bit ahead of projection in terms of the vote share because the vote totals are the same here. Oh, yeah, there was more. Actually, they have more votes coming in where Lindstrom is only up by 3% over Pillin now.
Yeah.
In which case that may be ball game. Yeah, I think the New York Times, they appear to have more votes in. Whether that is accurate, basically New York Times thinks 55% is in. With the exact same vote total, Washington Post thinks 36% of the votes are in. And Decision Desk, with almost the exact same vote total, thinks 39% of the vote is in. So I think New York Times is an outlier here. I don't know if 55% of the vote is in. Regardless of what it is, I would much rather be Pillin. I would actually say this is tilt Pillin right now, tilt lean, whatever you want to call it. Lindstrom's got to be pulling a lot better margins in these rural areas than he is. Like, these are small counties, but they add up. And when you're only getting 20% or 6% or 8%, 10% in these rural counties, that's not enough. That is simply not enough to get ahead on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. We got to learn the accuracy of the numbers of what's left, what isn't left. I think once we kind of get that cleared up, that will tell us a lot more about what's going on tonight compared to what will actually happen. That's going to be the big deal tonight. Once we kind of get the numbers that we see, we just need to see what those numbers are right now. We need to know accurately what percentage of the vote is in and who has it. That's kind of what we need to see right now, folks. As we pull up right now on 10:15, we've been up for almost 2.5 hours here. Thank you all so much for staying. We've had pretty consistent, strong viewership here so far on the YouTube channel. We really appreciate it, of course. Thank you guys a lot right now for continuing to stick with us here as we go on the night here here on YouTube. Again, if you are a first-time viewer, please like and subscribe. We do these every primary night, every big primary night, I should say, where there are multiple key races. Eric, I want you to kind of give the advertisement right now for next week, because next week might be one of our biggest nights of the entire summer.
Oh, next week is going to be fun. North Carolina has two of the spiciest primaries in the country. None of the statewide races are competitive in North Carolina in terms of primary. There's some court races that are going to be somewhat interesting to look at, but it's mostly just between Republicans looking at their own candidates. It's not a big deal. Senate candidates are pretty much determined for both sides. The two primaries to pay attention to, really three, but only two of them are really exciting. In the 11th district, you got Madison Cawthorn against a veritable army of Republicans, most notably State Senator Chuck Edwards, who represents much of the district in the North Carolina Senate, and Michelle Woodhouse, who is the wife of Dallas Woodhouse, one of the North Carolina Republicans. Also, despite his lean as a Republican, one of the more reliable sources of Republican-related news in North Carolina. Basically, he does a pretty good job of reporting stuff in general when it comes to congressional redistricting and whatnot. Basically, is a good outlet to look at. They're running against Cawthorn. Cawthorn has been in a situation where a new scandal has dropped almost every day. Like, you could put up the sign. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a sign in his office or somewhere in the RNC, that's 0 days since last Madison Cawthorn scandal. It really feels like that because it's gone through rapid fire. You had the insider trading for not one, but two cryptocurrencies, apparently. The potential payments to friends and family, campaign staffers. The really, really weird stuff going on with his cousin that I don't want to get into, including the video that was leaked, which I will not post here again, for obvious reasons. One, because it's almost certainly illegal. Two, because it's pretty disgusting. But not that there's anything wrong with people doing stuff in private, but I just don't post that stuff here. It's very, very unusual behavior and very weird to listen to. So you have that. The big thing here is, one, this has the highest turnout of any Republican primary in the state. So big thing to watch. Statewide, independent voters are voting, I think, 2-1 in the Republican primary. Republicans are doing really well in early vote. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on, the 11th district. The 4th district is the other one. Really going to be interesting to watch. This is the open Chapel Hill-Durham district. You have two candidates there. You have Valerie Foushee, who is a member of the state legislature, longtime member from the Durham area, is African-American, has the support of the brunt of the Democratic establishment, AI PAC, a bunch of other groups, Emily's List, I believe, among others, have all endorsed Foushee. who would be a liberal who would replace David Price in the House. Price is, of course, the longtime member of Congress representing the Research Triangle, a very liberal member of Congress, but not irrationally liberal. Like most of the members of the North Carolina legislature, or of the North Carolina congressional delegation, despite leaning pretty strongly to one side of the aisle, he's been more than able to work across party lines to get things done and to bring money into the triangle, which is obviously heavily dependent on grant money, federal money, all sorts of stuff for the colleges, research going on in the triangle area. So Foushee would very much be someone along that line, maybe a bit more liberal. Maybe he would join the Progressive Caucus. I'm not sure, but would certainly be in the same ballpark as Price at minimum. On the other side, you have Nita Allen, who is endorsed by progressives. She is the first Muslim woman elected to office in North Carolina. She is a member of the Durham County Council and has faced equal parts praise and criticism from Democrats. Nita Allen kind of rose to prominence after two of her friends were murdered. There was an attack on Muslim students at Duke, I believe. She was one of the only one to make it out of that. The other two were unfortunately murdered. Which is really sad. It's really, really awful. One of her friends was one of the three people who were killed in that shooting in Chapel Hill. And so that's kind of how she rose to prominence and got involved in grassroots organizing and in politics. So on that side, pretty inspiring story, pretty inspiring life event, something you would expect Democrats to like. On the other hand, she's been involved with the Bernie Sanders campaign. She's had a tenuous relationship as a member of the Durham County Board of Commissioners with the African-American community in Durham, specifically voting against keeping the county manager, voting to fire the county manager who was Black for being too fiscally conservative. That really, really irritated Durham's Black community. Durham has 5 members of the county council, 2 of which are Black. The 3 members of the council who are not Black voted to get rid of the Black county manager. And then the 2 that were Black voted against doing this. So that's kind of an area of stuff. There's also been some allegations in regard to Israel. She's been criticized for statements regarding Israel. And these go just beyond, supporting BDS. She was reportedly involved in a rally where there were chants of "From the River to the Sea," which is a very clear call to genocide in most eyes. She says it's unclear if she chanted it. I have read sources saying she did chant. I have read sources saying that she didn't. I couldn't find the video myself. She's apologized for being at the rally and said she hasn't chanted. She's apologized to the Jewish community in Chapel Hill and in Durham recently, so that's worth noting as well. But these 2 specific things have led to national groups coming in, as usual. You have the National Democrats supporting Valerie Foushee. You have progressives supporting Nita Allen. Why does this matter? Well, Chapel Hill, in particular, is the most liberal area in North Carolina. This is the only county that voted for Bernie in 2016. Durham did not. Chapel Hill did. So the conflict we're watching in this race, in the 11th district, we're watching on the Republican side how voters react to Cawthorn scandals. If they're able to hold them below 30%, or if somehow even Chuck Edwards gets over 50%, gets over 30%, and avoids a runoff. In this district, we're basically looking at racialized voting in a Democratic primary, which is a weird thing to talk about, but it's definitely a factor here. This is a majority white district where white voters will have a very big say in the primary, but it has a very large Black population out of Durham who are probably going to vote for Foushee more than they would Allen. So what we're basically watching here is whether or not white progressive voters in Durham and in Chapel Hill are able to bring in a more progressive candidate, or whether Black voters in Durham, along with other voters in more rural areas, because there are rural areas in this. There's also Alamance County, which is not a liberal county. It's a Republican county, competitive county statewide. So that's what we're watching there. These are the 2 really interesting primaries. We're going to be covering those on election night. But I am really, really interested by these. I'm probably going to do a further write-up on this because these are 2 really, really interesting primaries as to the future of the North Carolina Republican and Democratic parties. Most of the other districts don't really matter. The 13th has a competitive Republican primary. The 1st, there's competitive Republican and Democratic primaries. But there's generally none of these candidates are out of the crazy, aside from maybe Bo Hines, and he's distanced himself from Cawthorn lately. So that's kind of basically tune in next week because this is all gonna be really interesting. If you can't tell, I'm really excited about this primary.
Yeah, next week's going to be a lot of fun. Maybe
Yeah.
not for my heart, maybe even Eric's heart, but
Yeah.
hard to see right now. But I do want to say, as I share my screen here, we do. Nope, not
New
that's not.
results.
That's not the right button, but this is the right button. As we get in some new results here. Nebraska, we see the lead for Lindstrom is down to just below a point, down to about 1,000 votes. Herbster around 25.67%, excuse me. Again, here as we get in here, I will mention a big thing here right now. Something that the Times does have that Decision Desk does not have yet is Platte County, which is Pillin's home county. He's doing pretty well there right now, as well as some of these southeastern counties where we've seen Lindstrom, Otto, and Cass. We haven't had come in yet on Decision Desk, but the Times has them. Coming in right now, but we start to see more of these rural counties coming in here. We probably would rather be Pillin right now, as we see some of these more votes come in here right now, though. But certainly, though, results either way. Currently, for either way, one would say right now, for each candidate, Decision Desk was pointing about 45%. The Times are saying about 60% of the vote is in right now. We just saw another big drop according to the Times. We see more of Election Day come in. Lancaster Election Day has seemingly come in on both sides, with Lindstrom still winning, but Pillin shrinking his lead. That is for sure. We're still certainly looking here at a lot of key states here as we get into the night here. This is certainly that's a bad sign there in Lancaster for Lindstrom.
That's really bad. Yeah, this is getting closer. He's only up 5% in Lancaster now. Honestly, I don't want to project anything. We're not going to project anything independent of VDHQ. I feel fairly confident saying Lindstrom is not going to win this thing. His vote totals in Omaha are almost exhausted. He's only up right now by 1 point in Sarpy. Actually, Herbster is doing better there. I think Lindstrom's going to, honestly, he could finish in third. This may be between Pillin and Herbster. And out of the votes outstanding, I would think that, Pillin is taking up a lot more of these counties that are more populous than the really far western ones. But Herbster's doing really, really well out in those areas. I would say Pillin, I think, is the favorite here. If I were to guess how this goes, I think it'd be Pillin in first, Herbster in second, Lindstrom in third. That would just be my guess, though.
Yeah.
I assume this is the really Trumpy election day stuff started coming. Like right now in Lancaster, Lindstrom's only up 38-33. In Douglas right now, which is his home base, he's only got 42-24. In Sarpy, he's only up 32-31 over Herbster. Pillin is in third. In Saunders, he's only at 41-28. Like, this isn't going to cut it for Lindstrom.
Absolutely.
I don't believe this goes to a runoff. I think it's the person who gets the most votes wins. Yeah,
this is a most votes win scenario. I'm not seeing any news. Any sites? I don't believe I've ever heard of that in Nebraska, and I haven't seen. I looked it up a quick bit, and I haven't seen anything like that. So again, we're just really kind of waiting for these rural counties to come in here. Again, big thing that DDHQ is missing is some of these middle counties that have good numbers right now for Jim Pillin in this race. Some of these middle counties, they still have not yet reported, even though we see them on the Times. Some of them not yet reporting, though. We're getting kind of close now. Platte, the big one, but we're continuing to see more of these come in here. Once you see those come in here around Omaha and in the middle part here, that'll tell us a lot more about the state of the race currently, that's for sure, and what's happening across the state. But we're definitely seeing Boone County on the New York Times, I believe on Decision Desk as well, showing big result there for Pillin. That's definitely a result that he likes to see, especially in Knox and Cedar County. Those are results that he likes to see. Those are big. Those are some good numbers for him there. No, I would have to agree with Eric right now. This kind of looks like Pillin's race to lose right now. This definitely is looking more and more like Pillin's race to lose.
Yeah, the question is how Herbster does in some of these areas. Like Herbster doing so well in Sarpy is surprising. It's kind of weird that he's doing so well in Sarpy, in fact.
Yeah, it's kind of going against all the other results in the area, that's for sure.
Yeah. Like he's not even he's in the distant third in Lancaster. He's only pulling 20% there. He's only pulling 22% in Douglas.
Mm-hmm.
That's very surprising. It's somewhat strange.
Yep. So yeah, continuing to go on here. It's about 10:30 Eastern time. Again, it's been about an hour and a half since polls closed in Nebraska. We're getting some conflicting results on how much of the vote is in the state of Nebraska, but currently Lindstrom's lead is down to below 1% against Jim Pillin, and that is without Pillin's home county on Decision Desk HQ. So we're waiting for that one right now. Once that comes in, that'll tell us a whole lot about how this night's going to go. It'll be very interesting to see really kind of what goes here right now. It seems like right now, at least in my gut, like Eric says, we'd both rather be Jim Pillin's campaign right now. It sure feels like he's the guy to beat right now, just currently what's going on inside the races right now. So, it's going to be very interesting to see. Hopefully, we just continue to get more of these rural counties, and hopefully they report quite a good bit of their vote, as we've seen some of them do here. If they continue to report good chunks of their vote, that'll help this night go on for sure here, and that'll help a lot of terms and matters here as we kind of get into the night, as we kind of get into this final part of the night here. That'll certainly help things out a good bit. So we're looking, other places still have, we're going to be very interesting to see here. Again, Nebraska GOP governor primary, Jim Pillin, the businessman endorsed by term limited governor Pete Ricketts, seems to be right now on pace to take the nomination here in the state. But of course, that is not going to be a call we're making until the end of the night here, until we get some more results coming in here.
Mm-hmm. It's under Eric, 0.5% now.
How close it's being right now?
0.5%. It is 0.5% between Lindstrom and Pillin.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Close numbers.
Yeah, very close. And again, the thing I would be concerned by if you're a Republican is if Herbster. He has slowly come back. He is only 5 points, 6 points behind Pillin. More votes in. Ooh, yep. Again, Lindstrom down a little bit, Herbster down a little bit. We'll see. This is going to be interesting.
Yep. If I can share my screen here for a quick second here, looking at kind of what we continue to see going on here right now, I'm really kind of interested to see kind of how this core group here of middle counties go. These are kind of counties that are on the edge of what seems to be a Herbster Pillin divide. We do see Herbster doing relatively strongly, though, still in some of these outside counties in these very rural parts here. He is doing decently well in some of those parts there. But really kind of some of these counties, Greeley, Nance, Garfield, Valley, Custer, Dawson, Phelps, Franklin, Kearney, kind of these counties here. I am very interested to see kind of where those results go. If they go well for Pillin, that's probably a good result there for them on the end of the night.
Mm-hmm. And, I would expect within the next update or two for Pillin to take the lead over Lindstrom. That would just be my general expectation.
Yep. I want to say now it's down to about 0.3% of the vote between Pillin and Lindstrom as we continue to get more of the votes in here, as we continue to see more of the election day vote come in. Tend to see it as between Lindstrom and Pillin here as we continue to see that lead drop. Oh, do they? Let's check it out here. I don't see it yet, but let me do a quick refresh of the page. We are hearing some rumors right now that we are seeing some other sources report that Pillin will win the nomination. Of course, we are not going to do that until we get hit with that at the end of the night here. We are not obviously going to make that call until we get confirmation from our friends here at DDHQ. Again, DDHQ does seem to be behind in some of these eastern counties, though, compared to the Times, which is kind of what's making some of this vote counting a little bit harder. They do seem to be a bit behind parts of the Times here. But on the going back to the New York Times now, it should be said right now, Jim Pillin has taken the lead now over Brett Lindstrom by about 15 votes. On by about 15 votes on the New York Times page, Jim Pillin now in the lead right now. He has taken over, and it might be the time of the day where he might be able to stay there for the rest of the night, quite honestly, if this continues to look good for him. So continuing to wait on here for some key results out of middle part of Nebraska here. That's kind of where we're looking at here. We're continuing that's kind of the key thing here as we look at it. We're going to wait to see here, what does the election day vote stuff go here. It'll be very fascinating to see where it goes here. Again, we're hitting about past 10:30 now. Again, we're still waiting on key chunks of the vote to come in here. We're starting to see some places right now that, this will be very interesting to see right now. We're still waiting. We're almost about 3 hours into the stream now. Hopefully within the next 30 minutes here, we'll hopefully have a bit more answers. So, Eric, I just kind of want to get your thoughts so far on this election. What are you seeing right now? Are you seeing anything that's surprising to you? Or are you relatively concise with kind of the county levels and the kind of the divide right now that we're seeing between the top three candidates?
Yeah, I think nothing here is surprising. It really just seems, I don't want to jump the ball on anything, but I would be shocked if it's Pillin, if Pillin does not win this thing. And that's about what we expected going in. There would be a two-person race between Pillin and Lindstrom. I don't think anyone expected Lindstrom to do this well. But yeah, I think right now it's Pillin's to lose. I think other outlets, not other news outlets, but other Washington Post and New York Times both have Pillin having overtaken Lindstrom. And unless Herbster can somehow get a comeback, it's really Pillin's to lose.
Yeah. And again, we're starting to see most of the bigger counties reporting now. There's only a few counties with theoretically over 1,000 voters left to count here. There are some, but there's not a whole lot. Dawson, Hamilton, and Scotts Bluff are the biggest ones right now left. But those, again, as we kind of continue to see the bigger counties continue to report right now, it's growing. Again, things could change very, very rapidly, but it's one of those things where it becomes increasingly harder to see Lindstrom or Herbster pulling this off in the end here as the night continues to go on here. It does become increasingly harder to see, quite honestly. So Very interesting results, though. Still, it's definitely been a close night here in Nebraska. Didn't know if we were going to look like that when we started out the night, but of course, the election day vote continues to change things in these GOP primaries here. Things just continue to be changed here as the night comes in. But we do continue to have some relatively strong results here from key individuals. And I should be, excuse me, it should be said now. We are seeing again. The New York Times has officially Pillin overtaking Lindstrom in those results. Pillin has officially overtaken Lindstrom, according to the New York Times, around 50.
And it's just happened to DDH as well.
Yep, there it is, right there. Pillin has now overtaken Lindstrom. Again, Lindstrom, he's kind of being Matt Dolan, not to as serious of an extent as it used to be, but he is kind of really being just outran in these rural western counties here compared to Pillin and Herbster. So that's he's just being outran right now in these areas. But I will point to an interesting thing here on the on both sites right now though, but with in terms of just kind of what we're seeing in county ways here right now. I know it's been kind of that kind of edge here that we've seen Pillin doing better, Herbster going to be doing better here, but we do see Pillin breaking through in some key counties with a lot of the vote in Hooker, Arthur, Keefe County, Perkins County, Chase, Lincoln. These are strong western counties, and we do see Pillin doing pretty well there, and some of these northern counties as well, Cedar, Knox, Dakota, some of these central counties as well. Again, DDHQ still does not have his home county of Platte up. That'll certainly change some things when the time comes, right, when that eventually comes in right here. But certainly right now, again, it's starting to really, really look like this is Jim Pillin's race to lose right now. So continuing to look in right now, just an update around Nebraska. The current Secretary of State is, of course, under a primary challenge right now, Bob Envin. He's pushed back on some of the election fraud stuff. He currently has a pretty strong lead over two far-right challengers, and he is breaking through in some of these western counties. Just as an update there, it looks like that Evnin will take back here, as it looks like two far-right candidates seem to be splitting the vote there against Envin, who has about 49% of the vote right now, according to New York Times. So that's certainly a race that's turning out a little bit less like we expected here. But as races continue to get numbers in here, it looks like Jim Pillin continues to have extended his lead here over Brett Lindstrom. And again, it looks like Jim Pillin right now seems to be someone who would seemingly right now the current favorite right now in this race over both Brett Lindstrom and Charles Herbster. So, Eric, what are you going to say as well on that here today? Pillin, is this a win for the Ricketts in Nebraska and potentially his political legacy, or is this the field just that divided enough that maybe it doesn't matter in the end?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a win for Team Pickens. I would say that for sure. Or Ricketts, sorry, not Pickens. This is who he wanted to win, and it looks like he's in a good position to do so. Hard to see that as anything other than a win.
Yeah. I mean, you look at kind of some of these interesting here it is now. Yeah, I mean, we're just kind of still waiting. Wow, there was a big drop from the Times here, Eric. If you go look at the Times, there was a big drop.
You'll have to pull it up because I have issues.
Oh, that's right. Poor Eric. You need to. It's not that expensive, Eric. Just buy one.
I don't want to pay a New York Times subscription.
It's not that expensive.
It works fine.
Okay. Anyways, though, as me and Eric argue about that. Anyways, as you can see here, some of these middle counties that we just don't have in, and some of these northeastern counties that we just don't have in on DHQ have reported now for Jim Pillin. He is now leading by about 2.3% over Charles Herbster.
Up to the top of it, so they can see the DDHQ just reported this as well for what it's worth.
Yeah. See here, just big numbers out there for Jim
Pillin is up by two percentage points now over.
Yeah. And again, we see again a break in kind of this western wall that we thought Herbster was setting up. Banner County seems to be set to be going towards Pillin out there in the deep west there. So that's kind of a big result out there as well. Again, right now we're currently tracking Jim Pillin, the former Nebraska University Regent and Ricketts endorsed candidate right now as the favorite. It is still too close to call in the Nebraska gubernatorial primary, but right now we are tracking it right now as Jim Pillin currently right now the favorite in that race. So again, kind of this again growing out right now here. Hopefully we can have a call here within the next 30 to 40 minutes here. Eric has to go back to work tomorrow, and I have errands to run, so there will be things to do. But do
we have any other races we want to talk about in Nebraska? I think someone was asking about the district Dem primary.
I don't know. Do we want to talk about that? I don't think that's going to have much matter.
It's a Trump plus 55 district. If it's close, it's close. But
yeah,
that's not going to go anywhere. I wouldn't really talk about it too much. I am kind of surprised Adrian Smith's primary challenger is doing better than Don Bacon's primary challenger. That's kind of surprising.
Oh, I don't know. I like that. That's fun to see. Hooray for Don Bacon. We like the grilling. We like it. We like grilling. Hooray for the centrist overlords. Woo.
But there's still some votes in from Sarpy and Lancaster in particular that could get some more for Lindstrom, kind of counterbalance some of the Herbster votes. But this, I think Pillin has this. Yeah. I would be shocked if it's anyone but Pillin.
Yeah, especially if Banner is really kind of just all in here. That's kind of a break in the western wall there, and especially if that means Pillin's close in Scotts Bluff, then which is a big county there out west. That might mean that then if he continues to do really well in this middle Nebraska part, it's actually kind of still. If you could bring up that map again from the SAS primary, Eric, you're kind of seeing it track a little bit here.
Like I said, I'm the one who mentioned
the track in these counties here a little bit here. If you're looking at it, probably Herbster doing just a bit better because of some of these places, potentially some of the vote going towards other candidates. But you're seeing it here in a good chunk of these areas now. We're getting good numbers now here for Pillin. He's doing still pretty decently among the election day vote. He's not doing poorly there like Lindstrom is. He's still doing quite well. I would say it's probably again, no call yet, but we are going to say right now this race is right now leaning towards Jim Pillin in that regard right now. This is definitely a race that is leaning towards Jim Pillin right now for this race. Very interesting to see right now, though, as we continue to move on in the night. So, it's going to be, I think, again, looking like polling from those Pillin internals seems to have been pretty good, one has to say. One of those nights, as we continue to kind of get more numbers in here, it looks like we saw a couple more counties come in here for Pillin on the board here. We continue to see it coming in right now here. It continues to look like Jim Pillin. Again, we're considering this race to be lean. Jim Pillin right now, looking at these numbers right now, we're considering this race to be leaning towards Jim Pillin. We are not making a call yet, but we are looking at this race to be leaning towards Jim Pillin. So No, yeah, I think we're probably coming up close to the end here, especially as some of these western counties continue to vote results. We're probably looking at the counties that are still outstanding. I would guess the big one that we're really looking here to wait on to hear from anyone is probably Scotts Bluff and some from Dawson County as well. Those are the two big counties that really have votes right now. Those are the only counties left. Hamilton as well, I should say. Excuse me. That those are the only counties left that have theoretically probably over 1,000 voters left on the docket. So, again, looking half decent right now for Jim Pillin as he continues to take the lead in some of these key counties here. The Times is now saying that 69% is reporting, and Pillin has a nearly 3% lead right now, according to the New York Times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I'm Pillin, that's a fairly nice total to be at for right now. But in all seriousness, I really, we're waiting for decision desks. We're waiting for any other outlets here. They're probably just waiting a little bit longer just to make sure there's not any additional stuff coming in from Herbster. I know Herbster's doing pretty well in Sarpy in particular. They're probably just waiting for that. But we're very, very confident in Pillin. We're very confident that Pillin is going to be the nominee here.
We are starting to hear from some other election sources here that they are starting to project a Jim Pillin. Some very respected analysts. We're hearing it now from John Couvion from Winwich JMC. He is now saying that he believes that Jim Pillin is going to win this race. Obviously, DDHT was not calling it yet, but Couvion is a well-respected individual, that's for sure. And he is saying that he believes Jim Pillin is going to be the winner tonight in that race. Jim Pillin seems pretty well set. At this point, it's looking like to be the guy. And again, that would be, as we said earlier tonight, that would be the first flop of Donald Trump's endorsement in terms of where it's been used. That would be the first flop of the night, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So,
and to be fair, it's hard to blame this one on Trump. Aside, yes, it's a bad endorsement, but also like the sexual assault allegations, you can't really expect that. That's a mitigating factor here. It's not like like the Alabama Senate primary, right? Where Mo Brooks did a lot better, or not Mo Brooks. Roy Moore, beat Luther Strange to be endorsed. That was just a pure voter thing. I think the sexual assault allegations really played a major role here. Uh-oh.
You're right there, Eric.
Oh, can you not hear me? Could you hear anything?
I can hear you. I can hear you. I just can't see you.
Yeah, no, I have my camera off. I'm fixing some tea so I can stay up.
All right.
But no, so this is a failure of the Trump endorsement. It's also really a mitigating circumstance. Obviously, you don't want to endorse someone too early. Herbster was in a good position before this, and then he had the allegations, and that's kind of where things hit the fan.
Yep.
It's worth noting, like I said, though, Lindstrom's in second place. He's only 2 points ahead of Herbster now, and Pillin is only 3 points ahead of Lindstrom. I would be shocked if Lindstrom does not finish in third. Be very shocked.
Yeah.
But yeah, why don't you since we got a little bit of free time here, why don't you just do our little plug to like and subscribe? You do it a little bit better than I do.
Yeah, Eric, your audio is a little bit wonky right now.
Oh yeah, sorry, I had to switch to mine. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Eric had to switch microphones. It looks like, folks. Sorry about that. But so if you're new here to the channel, to the stream, please like and subscribe, please. Again, we have a podcast every Thursday with me, Eric, and Dylan Brown. If you were here for us for the whole time he was here, on the earlier part of the stream tonight between us two, for these two candidates here. As we continue to go on here tonight, but in West Virginia, he was with us today. We do a live podcast every Thursday called Elections Weekly, where we talk about some of the big results from the week and potentially just the news from the week as well. And as also, we look at, again, we do these big election night streams every time we have multiple big races like there were tonight. Of course, the big one next week will be massive right now. It'll be between big one between North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Idaho, Oregon, 4 key states with some interesting primaries and some key races will be coming out right now. That'll be a big deal, folks, as we continue to wait on and see here as some of the final results seem to be circling in here from Nebraska. Just continuing here right now as I share my screen here for you guys from our friends at the New York Times. Currently right now, Jim Pillin's lead is now about 3.3 percentage points over Brett Lindstrom. Charles Herbster is around 27.2%. Again, still some counties missing from the this part of the county, from some of these areas here, but again here really kind of lacking currently right now in big counties remaining that haven't reported anything yet. We're really kind of getting down to the end here. The Times is saying 72%. DDHQ is saying around 60% right now. And as well right now, we might have a friend coming back on here soon. We're going to see if he comes on soon here. It seems like Kraz Greinetz is going to be coming on here for probably the last 10-15 minutes of the stream here. As we do have lives outside of this, folks. We are probably going to cut this short here around 11:15 tonight here, potentially, unless we get something big coming in which case then we'll stay on then, of course, if something surprising changes. But otherwise right now, and here is our good friend returning from his break over here in Nebraska, Kraz Greinetz. Welcome back to the stream.
Yeah, baby, I'm back. Hello. Thank you.
So, Kraz, have you been watching some of the results that have come up tonight in Nebraska?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yep. So it looks like Pillin is going to be our winner.
It's certainly tracking that way. It is certainly tracking that way. In Nebraska for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think interestingly, the election day vote being much more conservative than the early mail-in vote is a trend we've seen, throughout a couple primaries now. I don't know how that's going to differ when we get to states that have in-person early voting. So I think in-person early voting, if you like North Carolina next week, will probably sap up a little bit of that. So it might be a little bit different. But man, it's been a huge difference. I mean, Dolan crashed, Lindstrom crashed. It's been a big difference. And so that's going to continue, and that we got to watch for that in the fall, because there might be a lot of races, right? I mean, one thing that was good was that a lot of states reformed to report mail ballots first. They're better about reporting mail ballots early now, which is great. But it means for Democrats that now they're going to be the ones that are going to be up early and just tank in a lot of states. So yeah. What do you guys have any thoughts on Nebraska?
Yeah, I will say right now, it does look like right now that Pillin is pretty well in the driver's seat. Dawson County, which is one of the few remaining counties left that has a lot of votes right now reported in, and Pillin won that pretty convincingly. Both DDHQ and the Times have that at around as over 95% of the vote reported in. Pillin won about 42% of the vote there. That's a big deal. That's a big win right there for Pillin. With only really a couple of minorly sized counties left to go. It looks like votes in some of these bigger counties here are pretty much done here in Douglas and Lancaster. We're still waiting on some stuff potentially from Sarpy. But right now, I mean, again, we have a good chunk of the vote in right now. I do want to stay on DDHQ. They're a little bit more ahead on Sarpy than the Times, and they do have Charles Herbster taking the lead right now in Sarpy as they get on the night here right now. But again, we are seeing signs of, again, just it's continuing to look like right now that Jim Pillin. It's hard for me to just see enough votes in enough big counties for me to see Pillin not taking this one here. Even if Herbster is taking Sarpy and other counties, it's very hard for me to see him pulling it out here right now. The Times are now saying we got about 73% reported. I'm sure if we see some more good results here, kind of some of these middle counties here for Pillin, I think we will probably expect to see a call here soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I'm trying to figure out where Pillin's actually from.
He's from Platte County. It's one of those middle counties.
That's what I thought. Yeah. And that's only 20% in, and he's got 64% there. The one next to it, well, that's all the way in. But Butler, he's leading. Yeah, I think he's going to net a lot of votes from some of those central counties that are still out. So, it looks like Herbster is getting a boost maybe from some of the far western counties. But,
ladies and gentlemen, we do have a call. Decision Desk HQ now predicts that Jim Pillin, the former University of Nebraska regent, and endorsed by leaving Governor Pete Ricketts, will be the GOP nominee for governor of Nebraska. Officially confirming from a key source, DDHQ now addressing that Jim Pillin is the nominee. Wow. This with some asterisks, of course, with the sexual assault allegations around Charles Herbster. However, though, this is officially in key primaries and key contested primaries. This is officially the first loss for President Trump of the 2022 primary cycle. He endorsed Charles Herbster, who seems set to finish second over Chris Lindstrom. But right now, it does seem like that Jim Pillin got enough of those late undecided voters to come towards him. DDHQ has made that call. They're saying that Jim Pillin is going to be the next governor, Republican nominee, and very likely, with the lean of the state, very likely the next governor of Nebraska as well. They have the check mark. I will show it here for everyone to see.
Big news.
But we are showing it right now. As you can see, the check mark right there next to Jim Pillin's name. We are officially calling it here. Jim Pillin, the nominee in Nebraska for the gubernatorial race. Jim Pillin. So a big result there. That means we are going to head out of here pretty quickly. It is 11 o'clock Eastern time. Eric. But I want to hear from Eric, and I want to hear from Kraz. Now that race is confirmed, your thoughts. I'm going to want to go to Eric first.
Yep. So this is a big win for the establishment of the Nebraska Republican Party. Lindstrom was someone who's a lot to the left of the average Nebraska Republican, voted to repeal the death penalty, more liberal on LGBT issues, has voted to get some other specific things that a lot of base Republicans are not really big fans of. And then on the other hand, you have Herbster, who ideologically is probably fine for a Nebraska Republican, but obviously had those pretty nasty sexual assault harassment allegations, which are a no-go, for any politician and for really any sane political party. So I would say if you're a Nebraska Republican, you're probably pretty happy with the result right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so too. I think Herbster wouldn't have lost, but I think if you're the Nebraska GOP, you don't need the Trump endorsement to win. You're going to win the general election anyway. And so, it's probably best to not have have someone who might be an embarrassment or might, do something embarrassing on the campaign trail or have embarrassing allegations come out. So, and Pillin's a bread and butter conservative. I mean, his website is all about, getting God back in schools, as he puts it, low taxes, cutting red tape, protecting the Second Amendment, all that regular bread and butter conservative stuff. So, sounds like this was pretty logical outcome.
Yep. And this is. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say this will be a good appetizer because next week we got the big
the big North
big
Carolina
one,
ones. Yeah, the two North Carolina residents here. We got two pretty significant primaries in different portions of the state. I will not go to the in-depth detail I described earlier, but North Carolina 11 and North Carolina 4 are fascinating primaries in different ways.
Yep.
One of them's in my corner of the state, and the other's where Kraz is going to college. So, we got some pretty. It's going to be interesting to see what goes on here.
Yep.
And hey, wait. North Carolina's not the big story next week.
That's going
to be whatever nonsense comes out of Pennsylvania. Let me tell you, folks, from what I've heard from insider sources, a lot may change in the next 48 hours. We might see some crazy stuff go down. Things may happen. May not happen.
You're trying to tell us that there's a certain avalanche of, say, information coming out about a.
Well, not just that, but some candidates might choose to decide to pull, as we would say in the election world, pull a Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar.
Interesting.
In a la 2020 Democratic primary.
Pulling a Pete Buttigieg is just declaring you've won before the results are even in.
Well, pulling in early March, Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar, not a mid-February Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar. But Pennsylvania, let's remember here, folks, Pennsylvania is the story to watch. Not only are there primaries to watch congressionally, a key one for the new 12th district between the Pittsburgh-based district between Steve Irwin and Summer Lee, but also, of course, the GOP races for governor and Senate, as well as we'll see what happens in the Democratic race for Senate as well in that race. And just some key state and local primaries across the board as well, folks. But it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a big night. And so here we go right now. It'll be a night to see what we say right now. Next week as well, we should mention here, there are some key primaries in Oregon and Idaho next week. To pay attention to right now, both of those states held their primaries next week, I believe. So that is a key thing is there as well. But otherwise, folks, we're going to kick it off tonight. Me, Eric, and Dylan will be back next week. I don't believe Kraz will be. I believe he has other extracurriculars to attend to.
Yeah, other obligations. I might be on. I'm probably not going to be there. So I'll see you in 2 or 3 weeks.
Again, if you're new here, like, subscribe. We'll be back here Thursday. Me, Eric, and Dylan Brown. We'll be back here for Elections Weekly on Thursday. We'll go over some of these results, and we'll also start looking ahead towards Pennsylvania and North Carolina and Oregon and Idaho on next Tuesday. Me, Eric, and Dylan will both be back here next Tuesday for those big races around North Carolina poll closing time, which I believe is 7 o'clock. Eric, am I correct in that?
That sounds right, but I need to check.
Yep.
Okay. Either way, we should be on or between 7 to 7:30 Eastern time next week. We might also have some special guests rolling in since Kraz is not going to be here. We might try and see 1 or 2 more panelists that you won't normally see here for us as we get into the night. But otherwise, the final big result of the night has been called. Decision Desk HQ and as by proxy election daily have called the Nebraska GOP gubernatorial primary for Jim Pillin. That is all tonight, folks. Thank you all very much for tuning in. It's a long stream. We consistently had a stream of around 30 to 48 viewers. So thank you very much. Rest of you guys have a great rest of your night. See you guys all Thursday for Elections Weekly, and see you guys next week for probably one of the more fun primary nights we're going to have of the entire season. Thank you guys, and have a great rest of your night.